As always, Gathering of Fools is brought to you by our ambassadors of bourbon, Gary and Bean. Thank you for everything you do to ensure that we have the best bourbon right here in the Gathering of Fools studio. Also, we are brought to you by Valley Wine Cellar. Valley Wine Cellar is still open for all of your craft beer and fine wine needs. They have the best selection of both in the Valley. So go check them out for your beer and wine to go. Last but not least, we are brought to you by Empowered Yoga. Empowered Yoga is owned and operated by my friend Amanda Gill, and she is now offering online yoga classes. Perfect time for it while we're all under quarantine. So you can check out more information on that on her Facebook, which is Empowered Yoga, or her Instagram, which is empowered.yoga, and the Vimeo, where the classes are actually online, are at vimeo.com/Empowered Yoga Online. That's vimeo.com/Empowered Yoga Online. All right, on today's episode, I have my good friend Steve Bolger. And to be honest with you guys, this conversation could have went on for probably 4 or 5 hours. We actually had something really important, very important to Steve, and I think a very important message to get out that we didn't even get to. So there will definitely be a part 2, so just keep your ears open for that. But today we went over his top movies, and he's like me. He's a massive movie nerd, so that took probably about an hour. And then we jumped into a bourbon tasting, which I was very excited for. He brought a bourbon I'll probably never see again in my life, and he left the rest of it for me, which was awesome. Thank you very much for that, Steve. But we had a whole lot of fun. This went better than I ever could have expected, and I can't wait to have him back. But without further ado, here's my buddy Steve.
And what's crazy about it is it's a normal size bottle, but it just seems like it goes so much faster.
Yeah, it really does. Like every time somebody takes a drink out of it, I'm like, it's almost gone.
Yeah.
And I tell him to slow down on that because now I'm finished with the one bottle of E.H. Taylor, but that's just now been opened, and I have a backup of the Eagle Rare. So, let's lean that way before I start making you drink the Elijah Craig and Basil Hayden's.
And of course, I come right out of the hatch and say, okay, we're going to have Weller with our regular drink. You're probably like, what? Right. It's my hardest one to get.
No, but honestly, I was for this, especially with you, because you appreciate bourbon. Obviously, you're one of the people that got me into bourbon. Between you and working at Garden Grill, that was what got me into it. So I'm happy to drink whatever with you, but also this one's a bourbon tasting, so
yeah,
we gotta go through them.
Gotcha.
I'm having a mild headphone issue. Oh well, it's not the end of the world. All right. Well, I'll just go ahead and get right to it. We have on the podcast today Steve Bolger.
Hello. Very happy to be here.
We are glad to have you. We're doing Steve is the person who, as you just heard me say, got me into bourbon pretty much, and we're going to do a bourbon tasting today.
Yes, we are, and I am looking at a fantastic array of bourbons in front of me that we'll be very excited to bring, hopefully, some education and also maybe even someone who's not really that much into bourbon. Yeah, wanting to now go out and try some of these because they're basically all fairly reasonably priced and maybe not obtainable.
Right, hard to get, but reasonably priced.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to get to your liquor store first thing in the morning the day they deliver.
Right.
for some of them you're just probably not going to even get at your liquor store.
Right.
And actually, one of the things I did end up loving about bourbon, thank God I liked the flavor of bourbon as well, but I had a Scotch habit before this, and Scotch, as we both know, is much more expensive.
That's right.
A decent bottle of Scotch is going to cost you $100.
Yeah.
Decent bottle of bourbon, $30 to $70.
Right. And as we've talked in the past before, I too had a little bit of a Scotch issue before the bourbon I guess you would say, embraced me.
Yeah.
And it is very good as well. And there are some unbelievable scotches out there that, like you said, if you compared it to, say, like a Blanton's, that's $60.
Yeah.
The comparable scotch out there is going to be double that price for sure.
Yeah, I'd say at least double because,
Yeah.
Blanton's considered one of the better scotch. I mean, it's not Pappy or one of the better bourbons. It's not Pappy Van Winkle, but, I feel like it's at minimum Lagavulin,
Yes.
comparison-wise.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as smoky.
Right. Or an Oban, or
Yeah.
you could say that it maybe would be comparable to like a Macallan 12 or 15.
Yeah, just right around 100. I'd say 100 to 115 probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe even an 18.
Yeah, but instead we pay, I think the actual MSRP is $54.99.
It's a beautiful thing.
A beautiful thing.
And I know people who have paid as much as, just for the regular Blantons now, not the special ones you get internationally,
Yeah.
$125 to even $150.
Oh yeah, when I was looking online at that and the Wellers that we have in front of us, they were both going for anywhere but the Weller was pretty much 200 actually, but the Blanton was 150 to 200 on every site I saw.
Sure.
Yeah, which was crazy to me.
Yeah. And it seems like in the last 6 months, they have actually allocated Blantons a little more often. It was about a year ago, maybe closer to 2. It was virtually impossible, and the only way you were getting it is if you were paying, some cases, double. I know.
Oh yeah.
Kind of a funny story. So New Year's Eve 2 years ago, I'm at work, and I have no Blantons at home at this point.
Which makes you a sad Steve.
Sad Steve, right. And, of course, it's New Year's Eve, and I'm like, man, I really want to have some Blantons
Yeah,
tonight.
this is some bullshit.
So I spent the better part of 3 hours that day at work just calling liquor stores all over the place. Robinson, all over Pittsburgh, because they have all those fine and wine spirits that sell liquor also. And found nothing there, of course. Started branching out down the Wheeling, then started looking other places in West Virginia. And the crazy thing is, I end up calling this Podunk liquor store in Chester, West Virginia. Now, I've never, I've been to Chester, drove through Chester, but I've never been to this liquor store.
How far away is Chester?
So it's a solid 35.
Okay, I thought it was going to be further.
Yeah, maybe 45 minutes.
Okay.
And it's north of Mountaineer.
Mm-hmm.
You go the exact same way, and you just stay on 2 north until you finally run into Chester. And I'm not sure how big it is, but my feeling is you could probably drive through it and not even know you did.
Okay, so a little like Sumbo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here the guy on the phone says, oh, yeah, we've got 1 bottle left, but it's $99. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I can be there in about 40 minutes. I'm coming out to get it. Will you hold it for me? And he's like, sure, no problem. Now I'm in a shirt and a tie.
Yeah.
My dress pants, dress clothes on. And as I'm driving there and I'm getting closer, I'm like, oh, geez, I wonder what this place is going to look like. It literally was a trailer that was made into a liquor store that also sold beer. So I pull up. There's like 3 spots in front, and there's a couple guys going in, and they go in, and as they're walking up to the counter and I'm coming in, getting ready to, talk to somebody that works there, the one guy I think had like Busch Light.
Yeah.
And another guy had, I believe, Blatz. I didn't even know they made Blatz anymore.
I didn't until I started working at Manfred's. They actually had a few in their cooler. I'm not going to guess as to how long they were there for, but...
The old saying is that the reason it's called Blatz is because that's what happens to you in the toilet.
When you drink it, yeah. Yeah, I could believe that.
You sit down and then you look down and you say, oh, God, Blatz. That looks like Blatz.
That looks like Blatz.
So getting back to the story, I walk in, and I don't even have to really say anything to this guy behind the counter. He's like, oh, you're here for the Blantons.
Yeah, he pointed you out right away.
Must be Steve. So I'm like, yeah. So I decided I didn't really want to drive Route 2 all the way back. It was raining fairly hard, and I thought, you know what? I know I can cut over the bridge at East Liverpool and drive back 7. So I asked the guy, and he's like, oh, yeah, the bridge is, 2 minutes up the road. the crazy thing about it is, so they have a bridge there. I don't know if you've ever gone across it. I think there's more than one bridge from East Liverpool over to Chester. I'm not positive of that. So they actually you have to give them, I think it's 75 cents, and they give you a ticket.
There's a toll road there?
Yeah, and it's just for the bridge. Have you been across it? And I'm thinking, like, what year is this?
Yeah.
And I swear I saw the guy who was working the window, like, cranking
the window. Yeah. He has to actually get out and lift up the arm. Was there an arm blocking it, or could you have just blown right through?
No, there was definitely an arm blocking it from what I remembered. Is that how you remember it, Jacob?
I remember it being a one-lane bridge.
Yeah.
And the guy's, like, in a little toll booth saying, pay me 75 cents and you can cross.
It's like, so I was going to say, it's more like a bridge troll than it is a guy working.
You have not experienced life if you do not head north and go over that bridge.
All right, well, I'm going to have to make that trip.
I would put that on the same level as going across Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And it only takes about 5 minutes versus... 15, 20 that it takes to go over the Golden Gate.
Well, if they have things like Blanton's, I imagine it just kind of sits on the shelf. So.
I would say so.
Yeah. So I might have to make the trip just to see what they have sitting on the shelf.
Right.
Did you actually look around, or did you just go right to the counter? And get your
I pretty
Blanton's?
much went right to the counter.
Oh man, you should have looked around. You might have been like, "What? They don't even make this bourbon anymore."
Well, I'll tell you what, if you decide to make the trek, I'll go with you.
All right.
And I won't be as dressed up this time, so I don't
stick out like a sore thumb.
Right.
Yeah.
There's the Blanton's guy from 2 years ago.
What if you walked in and he was just like, Steve?
Good stuff. So I didn't think we were going to branch into that story, but, talking about how some of these are really hard to get. But it seems like in the last 6 months, the Blanton's is not as difficult.
Well, and I'll tell you what's actually going to help us some is a lot of the liquor stores are closed because they're not inside their grocery stores. So they're no longer essential businesses, but
Sure.
ours is staying open because it's inside the grocery store.
Right.
So they are actually getting stuff sent to them that are supposed to go to other places.
They didn't think of that. That's huge.
That is huge. As soon as he told me that, I was like, oh, man, here we go. We're going to get into your top 5 movies, but I'm having a little bit of a headphone issue, so I'm going to ask Jacob to pause it for a second, and I'm going to fix that, and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back, and we're going to get into Steve's top 5 movies, but he actually has a little bit more than that. He's I think maybe as big of a movie nerd as I am.
Oh, yeah.
So
not knowing for sure your level of movie nerdiness, if you will.
Yeah.
I would say that Pam could attest that, I have a little bit of an issue when it comes to movies. But I think it's just growing up in a family that went to see a lot of movies.
Yeah, we went to see a lot. My dad owned a lot. My dad had a giant collection, which made me start a collection after he passed away. You guys might not have noticed it when you came in, but
I did see that.
I have like 300 or 400 Blu-rays sitting across my banister there.
I did see that. I spotted that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. My dad had a way bigger collection than that.
Wow.
Like he actually, in his basement, when he put the addition onto the house, he built like a library wall in the basement, but it was for movies, not for books.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think he got even more into books when his eyes started, or into movies, his eyes started to go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you have it broke down into comedy and then action drama, right?
That is correct.
All right.
Which you could even say potentially some of those action drama, are thrillers.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't want to get too crazy and end up with a 4 to 5 hour podcast here talking about the top 7 romantic comedies that Steve loves.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to hear that?
Well, me and Tommy sometimes have to boil down into those because he's doing it more and more often since it's been harder for me to get guests, just because of working so much, figuring out my new schedule.
Sure.
So we're like, oh, let's do top 5. Actually, last one we tried to do, it hasn't aired yet, started out with comic book characters, and it was his idea, and then he goes, Spider-Man, and I was like, yeah, I fucking hate everything about this. So, but we'll start with your comedies.
Okay, but one quick thing I got to bring up about Tommy because I think it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
So, and we could bring up a lot of things about Tommy, and I'm sure at some point we will bring up more. But so we're all at the store, and it's Valley Wine Cellar.
Yeah.
And John Decker's there, and of course you. And we're kind of messing around with him, and we're texting Tommy because he doesn't know my number.
Yeah.
And I don't think he knew John's number, and we're just sending him things.
Yeah, there was like 4 or 5 people that were sending him messages and trying to creep him out.
So in the meantime, I'm trying to put him in my phone as a contact, and John's kind of looking over my shoulder, and maybe you were too, I can't remember. And I'm putting him in my phone as Tommy Two Tones
Right.
because his nickname at that point, I guess, and I misunderstood it, is Tommy Two Phones
Right.
because he has 2 phones,
Yeah.
2 cell phones.
Yeah, he's always wandering around with 2 cell phones, and you had him as 2 tones.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And John's looking at me like, 2 tones? The hell is wrong with you? I said, what? It's not 2 tones?
Well, and what's really hilarious about that is me, Steve, Tommy, and John hang out quite often. So Steve's probably heard us call him Tommy Two Phones hundreds of times.
Hundreds. It all makes sense now.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, he does have 2 phones. Here's my question: did you change it, or is it still Tommy Two Tones?
I'm gonna have to check that, but I'm guessing it might still be 2 tones.
That's great.
Yeah. So I'll look that up while we're talking about these movies here.
Yeah.
So yeah, my first set of movies. I'd say it's kind of action drama / thriller.
Okay, you're going with those ones first?
Yeah.
And then try to save the number 1 for last.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a few honorable mentions first.
Okay.
And then, if you want to talk anything about any one of these movies.
Let's hit the honorable mentions after.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. So I've got number 5, and you're going to see a kind of a recurring theme with a lot of these movies, but number 5, Goodfellas.
Goodfellas. Oh,
Goodfellas.
yeah. Awesome movie. I mean, Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro.
Sure.
And, of course, Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
And, of course, out of nowhere, because he's in every goddamn movie, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, kind of a strange part that he has in that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not even very long that he's in the movie.
No. No.
Yeah. Probably most people have seen it. If you want to give your little breakdown of it, why you like it.
Yeah, I like it, I think, more than anything because of De Niro and, of course, Pesci. Not that Ray Liotta didn't do a fantastic job. He really did.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of De Niro's all-time great performances.
Yeah.
I mean, he just, to me, made the connection, made the movie work. You take him out of that, you could potentially put maybe like Pacino in it, but outside of that, no one else plays that part like he does.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I don't even think Pacino would be able to pull it off.
I don't either. I don't think he could pull an Irish mobster.
Yeah, and, De Niro just proved how good he is at it by doing it again in The Irishman.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Which I love that movie.
Yeah.
But this movie I do really like. I also get mad at it every time I watch it. Because even though it's a true story and it's really the way it happened, I hate when people get stupid. Like they kind of have that good thing going, and then they get dumb and they get arrested and then they rat on everybody. And I'm like, come on.
Right. Yeah. And it got to a point in the movie with Ray Liotta when he was just so out of control. You just wanted to smack him with the butt of a gun and say, dude, you got a really good thing here.
Right. You're fucking it all up.
Yeah. Quit snorting 17 lines and then going out to the grocery store and thinking every helicopter in the sky is following you.
Yeah, but which actually ended up being they were kind of following him. That's the other thing. If you did think that was happening, why didn't you start to clean everything up? Like the entire day, you're like, that helicopter, I swear to God, it's following us. But you didn't tell anybody to get rid of anything. You're just like, oh, well, if it's following us, it's following us.
Right. And I can't remember if his wife, and I can't remember her name, Lorraine Bracco. So Lorraine Bracco, I don't remember if she won an Oscar for that, like a supporting actress Oscar. But
I don't remember.
Boy, she should have, because she was phenomenal in that movie.
Yeah, she did a great job. She really did. Another thing that she absolutely was a huge part of the movie and part of what made the movie.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the scenes I always remember is when she comes up to him crying. Then he actually goes and hits that guy with the butt of a gun for messing with her.
Yep.
Yeah. And how like the first time he took her on a date, and she saw how he got treated by everybody.
Right.
Yeah, that extreme VIP treatment.
Yep. And then I believe, I can't remember the exact line, but there was that part of the movie when she realized exactly what he did. And instead of running away like, oh, my God, this guy's crazy, I think she actually says it turned her on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to be honest, what took her so long to figure that out anyway?
Yeah.
Like, he's a good guy. He has a nice job. He hangs out with, a whole bunch of Italian guys and
gives everybody $100 bill.
Right, and everybody in the restaurants all love him, and the bars, and he smacks a guy from time to time.
Yeah.
Once he handed me a gun, but he's a normal everyday Joe.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right.
I do that with Pam all the time. Hand her guns and be like, quick, hide this.
Quick, hide this. Wipe it off.
Don't ask any questions.
Yeah. All right, what do you got next?
Okay, so next I have Braveheart. Now, a couple of these movies, people may be like, well, God, I don't know about that. But if you take Braveheart for what it was and take out the factor that they've shown it now 1,000 times on TBS and TNT,
yeah,
you would. I mean, it's just a phenomenal movie. The story, of course, is a true story,
Yep.
which is cool. And I didn't know a lot about that history when I first saw the movie, but I remember seeing that movie, and I wouldn't say now I cry every time I see the movie because I've seen it too many times.
Too many times. Yeah. But I'm with you. But when it first came out, every time I watched it, holding it back.
Yeah.
No, there's something in my eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was funny because the first few times after I watched it, I kept fooling myself that he wouldn't die this time.
Right. Like he can't die. The best way to describe that movie to me is epic.
Yes.
Like it's just in every aspect, the acting, the scenery, everything.
Right.
But what's actually crazy, the battle they actually won that they shouldn't have been able to win. Do you know how they actually won that in real life?
I don't.
There was a bridge, and they just waited on the other side of the bridge. So when this larger army had to file through the bridge, like 5 at a time or whatever, they just slaughtered them as they came walking across the bridge. And of course, for whatever reason, they just kept coming across the bridge.
Simple times.
Simple times, yeah. Not quite as bad as when people later on in life when they just lined up across from each other and took turns shooting at each other. But,
Right. Go ahead.
But one of the all-time great movies, in my opinion, especially for Mel Gibson. I mean, just look at that one picture right there of him, blood all over his face, screaming.
Right. And there again is another situation where there just really isn't anyone else that could have pulled it off like he pulled it off. And I know he won a ton of Oscars.
Yeah, a ton of awards. I don't know if he got Best Actor or not, but it definitely won a ton of awards, deservedly so.
Sure. Long movie. 3.5 maybe somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood, but it doesn't matter. If you've never seen it before, first of all, shame on you.
Right.
Second of all, watch it immediately, and I guarantee you, it's a movie that you won't pick your phone up.
Right.
You'll be sold for 3 hours.
Yep.
Hooked right in.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. So next on the list, I've got Gladiator. Very similar story.
Yeah.
Very similar movie to Braveheart. Kind of along those same sort of lines, but different enough where you're not going to say, oh, well, this is just, they just kind of redid Braveheart, but did it in, in
Roman
Rome
times. Yeah. I would say there's enough to say that it's not the exact same thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we quote quite often at our house, and it's mainly just from Pam and I don't, the kids may say it once in a while. Richard, he plays Maxus Aurelius, and so he is the king.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, and he dies by his son's hands, which is the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. Walk on Phoenix.
Walk on Phoenix. I was almost going to say River Phoenix. That would have really been bad.
Yeah.
So why can't I think of his last name? Richard.
Go to the IMDb.
You know what I'm talking about? So very famous actor. He passed away a few years back. He's in all kinds of tremendous movies. There's a scene where he's with
Richard Harris.
Richard Harris, thank you. So there's a scene, British actor. There's a scene with Russell Crowe, and it's before.
Well, it has to be towards the beginning.
It is. It's the beginning. It's right after the big battle in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're in the tent, and he's about to tell him that he's not going to make his son the next king. He's actually going to make him and name him, even though he's a Spaniard. As if people seen the movie, famously, they just call him the Spaniard.
Yeah, and he's definitely not of royal descent whatsoever. No. Yeah.
So one of the lines we still even quote from that movie today, and we say I might say almost weekly, "Let us whisper now. Let us whisper." So Richard Harris says to Russell Crowe, "Bend down, come close, let us whisper now."
And that's one of your all-time favorite
I love
lines.
it. I love it.
It gets the hairs on the back of your neck going.
Yes.
See, I thought you were going to go with, "Are you not entertained?"
Yeah. And I love that too. But just a subtle little moment in that movie that a lot of people might not think twice about that I just think is really cool.
Yeah. I think that whole sequence of events with the King, first with Russell Crowe and then with Joaquin Phoenix, all just masterpiece of filmmaking.
Yeah, phenomenal.
The way it's wrote, everything.
Yep.
And Joaquin, he really is just a great actor.
Unbelievable. I mean, he did that part so well. Like, you actually hated him halfway through that movie.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
just despised him.
Well, and it's just so crazy to me because if you think about how he is in that movie, or a lot of movies, but it's particularly in Gladiator, and then you see like his speeches that he does for like the Golden Globes and stuff, you're like, how did you even articulate those movie scenes?
Yeah,
You know
right,
I mean?
right. And that speech he gave when he won the Oscar this year, deservedly so.
Yeah,
his performance in The Joker was amazing.
I haven't watched it yet. I
Okay.
have to.
I won't.
I'm nervous to watch it because people say when it's over, you do feel like, ugh.
Yeah.
like dark. You
Right.
feel dark
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, you certainly don't feel good about yourself because and I don't know, have you seen it, Jacob? I don't want to spoil things for you, but this won't spoil it. I mean, we all know the story. But
Yeah.
what's different about this Joker than, say, the Joker that was done
with like Heath Ledger.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or years and years ago when Jack Nicholson played it, is that they actually, like, you can see how it would be true. Like, this could actually happen in real life.
Yeah.
What transpired during this movie. So that's what makes it doubly disturbing.
Right. But and for comic book fans, a lot of them, I'd say it's half and half, hate or absolutely love it. It's the first time anybody's got a Joker origin story. There's not even one in the comic books. So, from my understanding, so another good reason. But we did get sidetracked because we're on Gladiator.
Yes, we did. We did. And the only other thing I want to say about Joker is when I first saw the previews and he was playing the Joker, I was like, this guy was absolutely made for this part. And I know a lot of people think, oh, Heath Ledger, no one could possibly be better than Heath Ledger. I mean, I think he was for sure.
Oh, you're gonna say Joaquin over Heath Ledger?
Yes.
No, I definitely got to watch it. I mean, I was gonna watch it anyway, but
sure.
And Tommy actually bought it on Fandango, so I'm gonna be watching that here on this quarantine time.
Yep. But it is dark. There are parts where you're like, wow, this guy is really screwed up.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's dealing with mental issues,
Right.
which is obviously making him the way he is, where you never saw that really part of it with Heath Ledger.
Right. You just saw him after he became crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the number 1 and 2 we can wrap up together.
Okay.
So I've got number 2 as Godfather 2 and number 1 as Godfather 1.
Godfather 1. Yeah. Nobody ever wants to bring up Godfather 3.
Just when they thought I was out, they pulled me back in. That's about the only thing you could get from Godfather 3 and said, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Good. I mean, when they bring in Andy Garcia, you think, okay, really good actor, but still seemed out of place
Yeah.
in that
Definitely
in that
seemed
part.
out of place. Yeah. Like you said, good actor, but he doesn't fit.
No.
Doesn't fit. But start with The Godfather 2 since it was your number 2. Awesome movie. One of the first times I remember jumping between timelines in a movie. right? Because
Right.
it had. Did Robert De Niro play the
Yes.
younger Marlon Brando?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he played the young Vito Corleone, and really it's so razor thin, which is why I group them together. It's 1A, 1B, because Godfather 2, you could make serious arguments that was even better than 1 because it gave you that history,
Right.
and they kind of seamlessly moved through the movie. With doing that, and it didn't seem too awkward, even though at the time, like you brought up,
It wasn't done a lot.
no,
Yeah, I can't really think of another movie at the time that really did that.
yeah,
And if they did, then they must not have done it successfully because I don't remember it. I was young, but still.
right. And those movies that I think stand the test of time, they still show them on TBS, TNT.
Oh, yeah.
And anytime I flick by it, I know Pam's like, oh, gosh. But at the same time, she's intrigued. She's like, I really do need to sit down and watch this whole movie.
Right. She's like, you know what? I do have 3 or 4 hours to spare right now. But I think, and it's been a lot longer since I've seen Godfather 2. I probably am firm on Godfather 1 being number 1, but I should watch Godfather 2 again. But Godfather, the first Godfather, I love so much. I love the aspect of him coming home from the military. He doesn't want to get involved, but in true mafia fashion, his family gets attacked and he rises to the occasion.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, for sure. And I think the reason why 1 does get the nod over 2 as well is the fact that Marlon Brando was just amazing in it.
Yeah.
And you don't really have that in 2. Even though there are some maybe snippets of flashbacks where he might be in it. But I remember there's actually in 3, at the very end of 3, they kind of try and wrap everything up where they show an old scene from 1 where Fredo, Sonny, the guy who used to play Fish on Barney Miller, I can't remember his name on the show,
I can't remember.
but he was in a lot of those mobster movies in the 70s and 60s. He's at the table. They end up killing him, by the way, later in 1 anyhow. But it was like at the beginning, and they're waiting for Vito, Marlon Brando, to get home, and it's his birthday, and like Sonny and Michael start fighting at the table. Fredo's trying to stick up for him. So it's just this really cool scene where the whole family's together except for him. And then as he's coming in, you hear him singing happy birthday and stuff, and then it fades away.
Yeah.
And it's just a cool shot because it makes you remember after watching 3 and the abomination that movie was.
How
good was it? Yeah. It was like, nice wrap up.
Yeah, they essentially tried to save the movie by reminding you how good the other 2 were.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So you want me to just run down a few honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'd like to get your take on. So, again, a really cool mobster movie that I thought a lot of actors did a phenomenal job in, The Departed.
I did like The Departed. I liked it a lot, and I recently watched it again, and I liked it even more the second time. And I think Jack is my shining star from that one.
Sure.
He played that character incredibly.
Yeah.
Which, isn't that character supposed to be loosely based on Whitey Bulger?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which spelled with a U, not a no. Just in case anybody's like,
so knows. Dad?
So kind of a movie that a lot of people don't know about that came out in the middle 90s. It's called Heat, and it's a movie that Pacino and De Niro are both in, but it's the first time that they ever shared screen time together.
Correct.
Because they were in Godfather 2, but and I don't think anything in between that where they were even in the same movie. There could have been something that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah.
So when Heat came out, that was kind of the big thing.
Was the 2 of them together?
Yes.
Yeah.
And even though they were pitted against each other, there were a couple really cool scenes, and especially the first one that they did, they were in a diner together.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just remember watching that. Of course, I was 25 years old maybe at the time, and I couldn't wait to see them act together.
Yeah.
And when they finally did, I was like, wow.
Well, and that cast in general, go up to the top there. Al Pacino, Rob De Niro, Val Kilmer, who was incredible in that role.
Yeah.
John Voight.
Oh, love John Voight.
Yep.
You gotta
and
love
Tom
him.
Sizemore before he lost his fucking mind on meth.
Right.
he was a great actor.
He was a great
before
actor.
he lost his mind.
And he was in some pretty good movies back in the early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah, quite a few, including this one, and Ashley Judd you have on there.
Yep. West Studi, which he's an Indian actor. He played the Cherokee Indian
in Last of the Mohicans.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
He
think-
was the bad Native American in Last of the Mohicans, which is a great movie as well.
And Pam's gonna love this one. So, do you know who Ted Levine is?
He's from Monk.
I believe so, but more famously, he's from Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yep.
And
Yeah.
he's the killer in Silence of the Lambs. And he's got a very distinct voice.
Yeah, and he looks so much different from that time frame
Oh, yeah.
to now.
Yeah.
Because he looked like a weirdo in that movie.
That's right. Yeah.
He did a little tuck job.
Yep. And I did not know this, but he is from Bel Air, Ohio. How
No
about
shit.
that? Yep.
I had no clue.
No idea.
Man, that's crazy.
That's a good find there, Jacob. So I'm wondering, I think he passed away, although I'm not sure.
Oh, that I do not know. Yeah. I think it would probably say right there, actually, born in May 1957.
Yeah,
I think
probably
it would probably he'll look that up. But
the list of
actors, yeah. Well, and I love that movie in general. It has one of the best bank robbery scenes in the history of filmmaking. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you don't get your adrenaline pumping in that scene, then you have lost your goddamn mind.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And if you're able to see it, obviously can't really see it in a theater, but if you can see it where you've got an awesome sound system, that scene is unbelievable.
Yeah, unreal.
And the other cool thing about it is the guy who is the Allstate guy now, can't think of his name, but he's their spokesman. He was the driver of that getaway car.
Oh yeah, he was. They actually literally saw him in a diner beforehand, and they're like, "Hey, we know you, and we need a driver now.
Yeah.
So come on." Because who was supposed to be the driver? Was the driver supposed to be? Was it the Mexican guy?
Yes, and he ended up getting killed. Maybe the night before? Or no, he got made. He got made. He called him. He was like, "Hey, I can't drive."
I think he actually tried to set him up.
Oh, okay.
If I remember correctly, he tried to wear a wire because he got caught up on something else.
Yep.
But man, awesome movie.
Yep.
It is an action drama, but the action really happens towards the end.
Right.
The rest of it's got a lot of drama. There's a little action scene in there with like a truck heist or something like that.
Yep.
But
it's more character development.
Yeah.
So you can understand, really how these guys live. And the last thing I'll say about it is, so that bank robbery you were talking about, probably 2 or 3 years after that, there was a pretty famous bank robbery in LA that they said that they felt they were taking exactly what these guys did in the movie.
Oh yeah.
And trying to pull that off in real life. And they actually had a big shootout.
And they didn't think that was insane.
Yeah. And they were wearing like body armor. And these guys are like middle of the day walking through these streets, just taking bullets and acting like it was nothing.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah. It's a really weak version of Iron Man.
Oh, man. So
I highly recommend that movie. I love that movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a few other quick ones. Probably I would say probably it was my all-time favorite Clint Eastwood movie. Then he's actually come out with a couple more since then that I'm like, wow, that's a really good movie. I think he makes some tremendous movies.
Oh, he really does.
Some that he stars in, some that he just directs. But Unforgiven, which is an older movie, out in like 92.
The best Western of all time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just, and it's exactly that. It harkens back kind of to older Westerns,
yeah.
But it still brings in some of the newer stuff where you don't feel like, oh geez. And I mean, he's made some really good Westerns. You've got
obviously
Pale Rider, Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yeah, but I don't think any of those won Best Picture in Unforgiven did.
That's right. Yeah. And what's cool about it is he directed it.
Yeah.
And his son was also one of the main He played the boy that was in it.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Mhm.
And then Morgan Freeman is also in it.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I love Morgan Freeman. And that one, I mean, it's kind of it's one of the best storylines because it's about an outlaw who was really considered a bad guy as well as a killer. He wasn't like the outlaw that people loved.
Right.
And it's like his redemption song that he's going through.
Yeah.
And one thing I have to say about Clint Eastwood too. Did you know? I forget what time frame it was, but there was a time frame where he was making all the movies for this one studio, basically, and he actually saved the studio from going under because it was a time of there was a bad economy.
Sure.
And he was making movies, good movies, so fast and so under budget that he really saved the studio.
Wow.
I think I saw it on a documentary.
It was probably in the days when he was making Every Which Way But Loose.
Right.
And he made like 7 of those, like boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom.
that monkey movie.
Any way which you can. Yeah, the orangutan.
Yeah.
It would stand up like almost like a Karate Kid stance, and then he would point at it and go like that, and it would drop to the ground like he was shooting it.
Yeah. But that was I love Unforgiven.
Yeah.
I'm really pumped you brought that one up. That's a great movie. Something I forget to bring up sometimes too.
And Wild Bill was played by Richard Harris in that movie.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yep.
I think that.
And then, of course, you had Gene Hackman, who's an unbelievable actor.
Man, I don't think Gene Hackman gets enough love, to be honest with you. Do you remember an old movie with him called Bat 21?
Yes. Yeah.
Such a good movie.
And I think, was Danny Glover in that, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a
Very good movie. He's got a lot of great ones, too.
Yeah.
He didn't make I guess he did make the cut because he's in Unforgiven.
Yeah.
But one of my all-time favorite sports movies, and don't worry, that's not a genre we're going to go over, but maybe that's for another podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that for another one.
I mean, who doesn't love Hoosiers?
Who doesn't love Hoosiers?
And Gene Hackman makes that movie.
Yeah, and if you don't love Hoosiers, actually, we're not friends. If we were friends prior to that, we're no longer friends.
That's right.
Yeah. Hoosiers is a great movie. Yeah. Again, just who doesn't love good inspirational movies where the guys that really aren't supposed to win?
Right.
You know what I mean? Who doesn't love
Yeah.
that? I feel like that's what we're all trying to do in life anyway.
That's right. Absolutely. It's a good point. And the part about and then we'll get off this movie, but it's such a great movie, it's hard not to talk about. But my favorite part in that movie is when you can see it happen. Clint Eastwood finally decides, because at this point he's trying to just be a reformed man, and I think he even says that a couple times to his son.
Oh yeah.
So he finds out what they've done to, I think his name was Ned, Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
And he finally finds out what happens to him, and he hadn't had a drink in quite a while, not sure how long, and he grabs the whole bottle off the bar and just starts taking like gargantuan chugs.
Yeah, and this is not beer, folks. This is liquor, without a doubt.
Yeah. Probably as close to moonshine as you could get.
Yeah.
So he downs about half that bottle of whiskey, and then at that point, you knew Gene Hackman was done.
Oh yeah, you knew the entire room was done. Yeah. He's like, oh, so he's gonna kill everybody in here.
But really cool scene because, of course, he famously had a guy that was following him around trying to write a story about what a great gunfighter back in the day he was.
Yeah.
And then he mows this whole room down, and not one person comes close to touching him.
Yeah, which is how you want those things to go.
Right. Okay, a couple real quick ones. Seabiscuit.
Seabiscuit's awesome. Yep, love it.
In the same sort of theme, a guy that's not supposed to be winning anything and actually ends up with horrible injuries, not supposed to ride ever again.
Yeah.
Does. Pam will attest that's a movie that I've seen many times, and I cry pretty much every time.
Yeah, I think I will too. Yeah. So, she does not look impressed with this.
No. Not a big Seabiscuit fan, are you?
Yeah, way better than Secretariat, which is a very similar movie.
Right.
But Secretariat was good. Nowhere near as good as Seabiscuit.
No.
Probably, in my opinion, maybe Tobey Maguire's best movie.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Next one, very underrated. I think just an unbelievable movie that has a lot of very good actors too. Can't remember the year, but I want to say maybe late 80s, early 90s. The Usual Suspects.
One of my all-time favorites. That goes in my top 5, period.
Okay.
Yeah. I always forget how to say his name. Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey.
Yep.
Benicio del Toro.
Charles Palminteri,
who I love.
Yeah, he's great in that movie.
One of the million Baldwin brothers.
Right. Right. And what hurts is he was actually likable and good in that movie, Stephen Baldwin.
Yeah. By far his best movie.
Yes.
Like leaps and bounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was the one guy? He's a comedian, and he does tons of impersonations. That's in that.
Kevin
movie.
Pollak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you say his name?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was actually going to get to that.
He was really good.
Yeah, but and actually, man, his impressions are crazy. How good he is, and I don't think a lot of people actually even know that. Mm-mm. But that's one of the best movies. One of the movies that you're going to end up surprised.
Right.
Right. It's you're not going to be able to watch it real close back to back either because it's such a shock.
Yeah. But it makes you want to go back and watch it because you're like, oh man, how did I miss that?
Yeah, exactly.
And then of course I've got to throw in these last two honorable mentions, and it could go on and on because we know there's. Yeah. I have to throw in Rocky 2 because it's my favorite Rocky.
Rocky 2, that's with Mr. T.
No,
that's
3.
Rocky 2 is when he actually does beat the champ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So you got Rocky 2, and don't get me wrong, Rocky's the one that won the Oscar. It really told the story, but Rocky 2, the fact that he wins, there were a couple other things that I really liked about it. There was that strong zoo connection where then he starts walking around with a black coat and a tiger on the back because he has some sort of connection with the tiger at the Philadelphia Zoo. Yeah. So, I don't know, just some unique things in there. And then, of course, you got to mention Scarface.
Yeah. Real quick, Rocky 2, one of the things I like about that is the respect that they both have for each other after the fight in that one.
Right.
Like the first one, there was a lot of animosity. This one, he's like, all right, this dude's fucking a monster and insane. And Scarface, I used to love. Yeah. I used to love it.
Right.
But again, now it's one of those things where I end up getting mad at the guy. Like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
and even at the end, you thought before you're about to get in like the biggest gunfight in your life, you're like, well, let me see how much cocaine I can put on this desk.
Yeah.
And then just let me roll my face around in it.
Right.
And then go get in this gunfight.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just so many classic lines from that.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever done dub smashes.
No.
But I had a period of my life, maybe a solid year to 2 years, where I was doing quite a few dub smashes. I have since matured from that. Matured. Steve Bolger and matured are two words that are hard for me to put together. Right.
Which I'm happy about, by the way.
Yes. But what's funny about it is apparently they're not that bad because my wife will still play those every so often because she loves them so much.
I'm going to need them sent to me because I'm not even sure I know what they are, to be honest.
They're something special.
Pam, by the way, Steve's wife, Pam, is in the room as well. She is also a very good friend. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Pam. All I have in my life is my word and my balls.
That is a great line. I forgot about that line. But it's a great movie. It's one of those, I get so mad at the end. Plus, he's really weird with his sister.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Now, I got just because you brought that up, I want to bring up one of my favorite Al Pacino movies, also a gangster movie, Carlito's Way.
Oh yeah. I believe Johnny Depp was in that.
No, Sean Penn.
Sean Penn. Okay.
Yeah, Sean Penn.
That's right.
And you wouldn't even recognize him. He's got this weird curly hair. He's his lawyer.
Yeah.
But also is a guy that ends up putting him in a really bad spot.
Yes.
John Leguizamo.
Yeah, and Penelope Ann Miller was really good in that.
Yep. Luis Guzman.
How about Viggo Mortensen?
Man, I don't even remember him being in that.
I don't either.
Holy shit.
That had to be one of his first movies.
Yeah, for sure.
Huh.
Now I'm going to watch that again soon, and I'm going to be just looking for Viggo the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that one. I think seeing this movie is what made me maybe fall a little bit out of love with Scarface because I like that gangster more.
Sure.
His role, Carlito, I love that guy. In the very first scene when he just gets out of jail and his buddy convinces him to go to that pool hall with him to do a small deal. They're like, they'll just, since it's you, everything will go smooth. And he ends up having to fucking kill everybody in there.
Poor Carlito.
Yeah, he sees it like as soon as he walks in too. He's like, ah, shit.
Yeah.
Well, everybody in here is going to be dead in a little bit.
I'm glad you brought it up. I forgot about that movie, and I feel like I definitely need to watch it again now.
Yeah, to me, that's one of the all-time best gangster movies.
For sure.
As soon as we get home.
Well, we got a decent amount of time on our hands now.
Right. All right. So now, are we done with the?
We are done with the action thriller drama.
So now we're going on to the comedies. All right. I'm excited for this.
Okay.
I want to see what your humor's like.
All right.
I feel like I have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I think you have a pretty good idea, but the first one might throw you off a little bit.
Okay.
So this would be number 5, and I'm leaving these just strictly as 5. Certainly, we can branch into honorable mentions if you want. So number 5 is Napoleon Dynamite.
That one actually does surprise me a little bit.
I figured it would.
Yeah.
Now, I think this one is more of a beatdown of you're going to love this movie because we're going to watch it a lot. The first time I watched it with my family, and it was more like, we got to watch this movie. It wasn't something I saw in the theaters. It's got a pretty strong kind of cult following.
Yeah, I didn't see it in theaters either.
So we watched it. I was like, eh. And then,
real quick, I have to agree. I bought it when it came out to DVD, and when I first watched it, I gave the DVD away.
It took me like 5 times to watch it all the way through.
Yeah,
So-
but continue because
so-
I feel like we're going to say the same thing.
right. So, Pam has a strong, anybody that knows her, very strong aversion to nerds. So,
Some people are afraid of spiders. Some people are afraid of snakes. I'm terrified of nerds.
You're terrified of nerds. That's hilarious. It's a weird thing to be terrified of. Snakes and spiders make a lot more sense.
so the fact that she ended up, getting me also to sit through this movie when you first watch it, you're almost uncomfortable. Like, is the acting really this bad, or are they portraying the acting to be this bad?
Right.
So, long story short, years later, every now and then we will pop that in. I wouldn't say maybe more than once or twice a year, and we really laugh. But so when you go back and you start watching it multiple times, there's a lot of little nuances in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And you don't pick up on them the first time because of the aversion, and then also just looking like
this is a piece of shit film. I know it is.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden I love it.
yeah.
Yeah. And same thing happened to me.
And when they're playing that game, whatever the hell that game is with was it tetherball? Mm-hmm. And you're like, who the hell plays? Like, I remember growing up, and they'd have those games on the playground, and you're like, who in the hell is playing this game?
Yeah, I can't lie. When I lived in California, I played it a decent bit, but I was more to try to hit the other person with the ball than win the match.
Yeah.
But what's his name? Uncle Rico.
Yes.
He might be my favorite thing.
Yeah.
in the movie.
Or cats.
Yes. So we have a cat named Uncle Rico.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then we have 2 other cats who we also named after characters in a Napoleon Dynamite. Both female cats. One is named Deb, who was kind of Napoleon's
Love
girlfriend.
interest. Yeah.
And the other one is La Fonda.
La Fonda. I forgot
Which would
about
be
La Fonda.
His brother, Kip.
Yeah.
That was his love interest, who he met. He was a Renaissance man. He met her online.
Yeah, and he got changed from the ultimate nerd, maybe even nerdier than Napoleon, to
50 Cent.
To 50 Cent. But Uncle Rico, I love the little things like when he says, "I could probably throw this football over that mountain." Yeah. Because that's the kind of stupid shit you hear from certain people, but they don't say it that outlandishly. They're
Right.
like, I bet you I could throw this over that car way down the street or something.
Right.
He's like, I bet you could throw this over that mountain.
Yeah.
So serious.
And the other thing, if you ever go back and spend some time to watch that again, he eats nothing but steak through that entire movie. Not once does he have anything other. And I think there are times where it's like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. He's in the kitchen eating steak.
Nothing else on the plate.
No.
Which, first of all, expensive dietary diet that he had there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a movie I hated and then ended up loving.
Yep.
Same.
Same. And I think it does that to you no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, so I knew that would throw you off. Now, these others, you're going to probably be like, And you could interchange these two, really. But number 4, Old School.
Yeah, I love Old School.
Yeah. And what was cool about Old School is when that came out, there hadn't been a really good comedy like that in quite some time, where it was like bringing in, different guys. I mean, Adam Sandler had his run of different movies, and of course Mike Myers did the Austin Powers stuff, which I loved. But this was like kind of going back to the golden days of great comedies from the like late 70s, early 80s to me.
Yeah. I would agree with that. But the only thing I ever think of when I when I hear about that movie is 2 Will Ferrell parts. It's my first real memory of Will Ferrell. And the first one is when he gets shot in the neck with that dart. I forget what he says, but he says something that just cracks me up. But just the way he's talking in general.
Yeah.
And then also, again, with him, when he decides to go streaking, he's like, "Come on, Snoop, bring your hat." And he's running down the road, and his wife pulls up next to him with all of her friends in the car. Yeah. He's like, "We're streaking." And she's like, "Who's we?" He's just by
all the
himself.
guys. He's like, all the guys. And he looks behind him. He's like, oh. And then she makes him get in the car.
with her friends in the back seat.
And the one friend up front looks back and says, oh, my gosh, it must be cold out there.
That's an all-time great, and I think one of Luke Wilson's best roles.
Yeah. And of course, when you get Vince Vaughn and Will Ferrell together, that's always going to be magic. And even Luke Wilson's older brother, Owen, when you get Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn together, because they've done some movies together.
I actually just watched one of theirs today, The Internship.
Very good.
Man, just Vince Vaughn in general, though, I'm pretty sure I could watch an entire hour of just Vince Vaughn talking.
Yes.
He's
very engaging. Yeah. Kind of has that voice that just draws you in.
Yeah, and he goes from A to B like nothing happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
One of my favorite scenes with him in any movie is in The Breakup, when he first meets Jennifer Aniston at the baseball game, and just the way he approaches hitting on her, even though she's with another guy. It's just so good.
Right.
I could listen to him talk forever.
And the thing is, you could see him doing that in real life for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like he's one of those guys where you're like, okay, I think he's basically like he is in the movies. He's like that in real life. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea.
Yeah, I would imagine it is, because you have to imagine he has no fear of anything that comes out of his mouth, because he's a giant.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's a massive man. I think he's like 6'5".
Yeah.
So
yeah. And his dad was actually a pretty good actor in his own right
I
back in the day.
actually have no idea who his dad is.
His dad's Robert Vaughn, and he was probably 60s, 70s. I believe one of the movies that you might remember him in would be Jaws. I think he was the mayor in Jaws.
She's trying to find it here. Just try Vince Vaughn's dad or whatever. Or Rob.
Funny that Rob Zombie came up there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No shit. I did not know that was his dad.
Yeah. Yep.
Crazy. Wow. Yeah, I do recognize him. I've seen him in quite a few movies. Huh. All right.
Okay. So there you have it.
Moving right along.
We were a little bit out of lull there.
Yeah, we were both just staring
fascinated,
at the screen.
looking at Robert Vaughn.
Yeah. Handsome man.
Yes, very handsome man. So the next up, and again, instant classic, is Hangover.
Oh, yeah.
And again, that movie came out. So Old School was probably out, I'm going to guess, 5 or 6 years before that.
Yeah, I'd say at least.
And then when I first heard about The Hangover, when it came out, and it was just like people were literally giddy about this movie. Like they couldn't stop talking about how great it was.
You almost felt like you were definitely going to be let down.
Yes. Yes. And then I go and see it, and shockingly, I was not let down at all.
No.
And it left you wanting more. And obviously, it left a lot of people wanting more because then they piggybacked and made 2 and 3, and they weren't anywhere near as good as 1.
Nowhere near as good, but still hilarious.
Yes.
But nowhere near as good. And made me want to see anything and everything that Zach Galifianakis was in.
For sure.
Like where did this guy come
Right.
from?
He kind of came, he just literally came out of nowhere.
Yeah. It was just one of the funniest people I've ever seen. Every movie I've seen him in, I don't care if it's a shit movie, I'm like, man, I'm glad I watched that.
Yeah. 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 The guy is just, I mean, he's so funny, so deadpan. There's a famous, I shouldn't say famous because none of my dub smashes are famous,
but they're about to be.
Yeah. So Ed Helms,
They're about to be all over the Gathering of Fools Instagram.
there you go. Ed Helms, who is phenomenal in that movie, and I was never a huge Ed Helms guy in The Office. He kind of bothered me.
Same.
And then I saw him in this movie. I was like, wow, I really like Ed Helms, man. He's funny.
Yeah.
He's talented, and so he does the song. I think he was playing the piano. Actually, I was thinking it was the guitar, but it might have been
it
two.
was the piano.
Yeah, and so he does a song in there about his best friend Doug, because of course they're looking for Doug the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a catchy tune, and there's a dub smash to it that I did because I have a very good friend. One would say a best friend, one of several best friends, that his name is Doug. And I thought, this would be kind of funny to do this dub smash and send it to him. And it's kind of taken a life of its own amongst our friend group, because every few months or so, or even when like Pam is watching the movie, because she has a serious problem with hangovers, she will watch it.
I will watch it every time it's on.
Yeah, she can't
Loves
get it
the
up.
movie.
Yeah.
She'll screenshot it, or she'll record the section of when he's singing, and then she'll send it out on a group text. But the dub smash resurfaces amongst our group text
Pretty often.
yeah.
So it might be the most famous of the dub smashes.
Yes.
Okay.
I would you agree with that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
Doug.
that's one of the great comedies, and also I think helped launch the career of one of today's best actors, Bradley Cooper.
Yes.
That dude is insanely talented.
Yes, he is.
He was doing all the singing in that Stars Born.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
And you want to talk about a movie that I was like, I don't give a shit what anybody says or does. I don't care if someone puts $100 bill in front of me and says you must watch Stars Born. I don't know why. I just had it in my head. I am anti Stars Born.
Same.
I'm not watching this movie.
Yeah.
And then of course, flicking through channels a few months back, it's on whatever, HBO or something, and I'm like, I could watch a few minutes. Let me see. I heard Bradley Cooper's amazing in it. I'll watch a few minutes.
It was great.
It was fantastic, and he was unbelievable in it.
It's unbelievably good.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I just watched it for the second time recently, and it was actually during this quarantine. And I may have been, doing my own little private bourbon tasting.
Yep.
And I may have got a little emotional about every 10 minutes. I can't believe he just loves her so much.
Yeah. Hey, it's better to be emotional that way than be emotional because, you just love watching Bradley Cooper on the screen.
That's true. That's true. But man, that scene when he first takes her out on the stage for the first time, even though it's like a good emotional cry, it's just I can't hold it in. I'm like, this is just so fucking amazing. And normally it's not when I'm drunk that I get the emotional. It's when I'm hungover.
Yeah.
But that one, it got me the other night. I had to turn it off.
Well, that happens often to me in many, many movies. But I think when I really kind of dug deep as why I was so anti-Stars Born is I'm not a big Barbra Streisand fan.
Yeah.
So back
me
in the
neither.
day, to bring in some of the older listeners back in the day, of course, that came out with Chris Christopherson.
Yeah.
And won awards, and people loved it, and they were like, "Oh, Barbra Streisand, Barbra." I just, it's Yentl, Yentl,
Yeah.
Barbra Streisand.
Yeah. I've seen a bunch of movies with her because my mom loved Barbra Streisand. I've just never been a fan either. I'd rather watch a Bette Midler movie.
Right, for sure. The Rose,
The Rose. Yeah.
The Wind Beneath My Wings.
Yeah. Beaches.
Yes.
Every once in a while, I randomly bust out into The Wind Beneath My Wings.
Yeah.
I'll sing it to somebody randomly when I'm working with them.
Right. I mean, who doesn't do that?
Yeah.
I thought that was commonplace. Apparently, we're the odd ones.
Apparently. Sometimes I don't even actually sing it. I just go, did I ever tell you you're my hero?
Nice.
All right. So what's
All right.
next?
So number 2, and it was a tough call between 1 and 2, and I believe Old School was spawned from this movie, is Animal House.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in a really long time, but I would definitely say that Old School was spawned from that, without a doubt.
And we're talking a movie that's pretty old, so I might lose a decent amount of the younger listeners here, but I urge you.
Younger listeners should watch that movie.
You must watch it, especially if you find that you think Old School is a really good movie. You definitely need to go back and watch that movie.
Yeah. You're not going to get a lot of people that you recognize in it, except for probably Kevin Bacon, because Kevin Bacon's one of those guys that's in just absorbent amount of things.
Right. The 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Great game.
Yeah. Very good game.
But it also has...
7 degrees?
I thought it was 6.
I'm not sure.
I'm going to say 6. I'm going to go on, we'll let Jacob find that out. But you had John Belushi, but there again, died very young.
Right.
So
That's what I was going to bring up was John. Yeah.
No, not Chevy Chase. Tim Matheson was really awesome in that movie, but a lot of people aren't going to remember him.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to even place him. I know if I saw his face, I'd know exactly who he was because I've seen that movie a bunch of times.
Yep.
It is 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, so we'll throw that in there real quick.
Thank you.
But
I'm not right very often.
He just gave himself a little pat on the back.
Yeah.
But John Belushi he was supposed to be the biggest comedic actor ever, and we lost him too soon.
Right.
Yeah, and this really, he shined in this.
He absolutely did. This was kind of his, not that he didn't already, he wasn't already had a pretty big following because of his SNL skits, but this just like he exploded after this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. He ended up doing quite a few movies after that, but nothing that lived up to anything like this.
No.
He kind of had a quirky movie that is really kind of weird that I like, and it's his best friend he did with Dan Aykroyd called The Neighbors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And again, that's one of those, it's kind of a cult following. If you read the reviews, you'd be like, I'm not wasting my time with this movie. But again, we've got some time on our hands here.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, it's one of those weird movies you're like, well, that was kind of funny though.
I'll have to check that out for sure. I'll watch anything with those two. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Blues Brothers.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
They were a great comedic duo. And Dan Aykroyd's a weirdo in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would love to talk to him, but he is all into aliens and ghosts and all that, like hardcore.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of who else was in that we would.
Well, Animal House?
Yeah.
Go back to Animal House real quick.
So Harold Ramis.
Mary Louise Parker is in it.
Okay.
I lied. That's Mary Louise Weller. So I don't even know who that is.
I wonder if she's related to the Wellers who make the bourbon.
Ooh. Well, she's automatically one of my favorite actresses.
Right. Mine as well. So Harold Ramis was a writer for this movie. He wasn't in the movie, and Harold Ramis, of course,
did a lot of writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, that's how he kind of made his hay initially, because he wrote for SNL. He wrote a bunch of other really good movies. Again, it was in Stripes, which was a really funny movie with Bill Murray. Was in Ghostbusters. So he was a good actor in his own right, but really writing was his forte, and then actually became a very, very good comedic director.
Oh, yeah. Great comedic director. And honestly, a good comedic actor.
Yeah.
One of his smaller roles, but always made me crack up, was in a movie with Tom Hanks' son, Colin Hanks, Orange County. He played like a teacher or psychiatrist or something. I remember there being very funny aspects to his role in there, but I shouldn't even brought it up because I can't really get that into it.
I got to jot that down. So one quick funny Harold Ramis line that I just love, and I still quote. I will insert whatever place I'm at or whatever place someone wants to go to. So there's a scene when they're in this RV in Stripes, and they need to go to I can't even remember where. I don't know. I think it was like Germany or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. It was either Germany or Russia.
Yeah, and so Bill Murray's trying to talk him into doing it, and he absolutely wants nothing to do with it, right?
Which was like the whole movie, Bill Murray's talking him into doing things.
Yeah, like going into the army.
Right.
So his Bill Murray's line was like, hey, come on. I can't remember his character's name, but he's like, hey, come on. It's like going to Wisconsin. It's no big deal. You just go in, we do what we got to do, and go out. And Harold Ramis looks at him. He's like, I've been to Wisconsin. I got my ass kicked in Wisconsin. So when we've been at different times with friends or even my family, and they're like, "Oh, come on, let's go. Come on, Dad, we'll go to Michigan. Let's go." I'm like, I've been to Michigan. I got my ass kicked in Michigan, and they have no idea what They
don't know the reference.
No, they're like, "Oh my gosh, really? What happened?"
You should come up with a story just for that. That's great.
I don't know why it made me think of it, but Harold Ramis and then seeing the stripes up there on the screen, thanks to Jacob.
Yeah,
all right.
He does a good job back there.
Yes, he does. Very, very good. And last but not least, Caddyshack.
Oh man, yeah.
And
Especially with how much you golf.
Right.
Well, at least you used to. Do you golf very often anymore?
Well, this is kind of the off season.
You're right. Yeah, that's true.
There have been years where I've been able to play every month because of the weather. This could have been one of those years, but then work's been crazy, so it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I haven't played as much as I would have liked to in the last few months, but I intend to get back at it here real soon.
Yeah. But definitely again one of the all-time great comedies. Another former SNL star with Chevy Chase and Bill Murray.
Yep.
And Rodney, I always forget about Rodney.
Yeah.
Man, and he was great in this movie too.
He was typical Rodney, fantastic. But I think the guy who kind of almost steals the show is Ted Knight. And Ted Knight is the guy who's got the putter. He calls it Billy Baru. And, the character just gets on your nerves right from the get-go.
Yeah, there's a couple country club members I could compare him to, but I'll leave that off air.
Sure. We can talk about that later.
Yep.
Rodney Dangerfield just knows how to just push his buttons, which is hilarious because he does it throughout the whole movie. But Ted Knight was phenomenal in that movie, and he was from years and years ago, originally from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. That's how he became famous. And people, I probably lost several people after that reference. They'll be like, "Oh my God, this guy's talking about the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Is he 75 years old?"
Some of us at least got to remember that from Nick at Night or something like that, right? But Ted Knight did in a role. He was hilarious in that movie in a role where he wasn't really supposed to be funny.
Right.
He was a dick.
But
ended up.
Judge Snails, I believe, was his name.
Yeah, and he ended up doing great. That's funny, Judge, huh?
Yeah. And then, of course, Bill Murray, famously played the groundskeeper with the whole Gophers, and, he's trying to,
And in his, I don't know if you want to say accent or draw or whatever it was in that movie, just the way he spoke in that movie was awesome.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I love the scene when the priest comes out and it's, thunderstorm impending. Nobody's going out and playing golf. And he's like, he grabs Bill Murray. He's not even supposed to be a caddy.
Yeah.
Because there's no caddies around. And, of course, he's like, "Sure, I'll caddy for you." And he's having the round of his life. And then he gets to the last hole and he misses this birdie putter. He would either beat the course record or tied it. I can't remember. And then is immediately struck by lightning. And in classic Bill Murray, classic Bill Murray style, he just kind of leaves the bag and the clubs and then just kind of eases his way off the green.
About that. Yeah. Slowly backs up. Yeah. The one of my favorite scenes of that movie, I think it's Chevy Chase goes into his cabin or wherever Bill Murray stays in that movie. And he's just talking about all the different marijuana and grass.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. And I've got a lot of love for Bill Murray just as a person in general.
Sure.
He doesn't even have an agent or anything.
I did not know that.
Literally, there's if you want Bill Murray to be in a movie, there's a number you call and you leave a message. And he listens to it, and if he wants to be in your movie, he calls you back. And that's
amazing.
And it's been like he's never had an agent his whole career.
Yeah.
And he's got all these different crazy stories. George Clooney actually told one on one of the late night talk shows. And he said, I was in Italy, and all of a sudden I get a call from Bill Murray because they're friends. He goes, hey, I'm at the airport. Come pick me up. He's like, Bill, I'm in Italy. He goes, I know. I'm at the airport. Come pick me up. He's like, oh, all right. So I go and I pick him up, and we hang out for like 3 or 4 days. We play basketball. We watch TV. One day we're just sitting on the couch watching TV, and he's like, all right, I'll see you later. And he just leaves, and I haven't seen him again since.
That's beautiful.
And he has all these stories that, like, just showing up at random people's weddings.
I have heard that. Yeah,
showing up and just doing karaoke with people, showing up at random parties.
Yeah.
But one of the best ones is he walks into a bar, some random bar, with RZA and Jizza of the Wu-Tang Clan. How they got together, who knows?
Yeah. And
he goes behind the bar and just starts bartending, and no matter what anybody ordered, he gave them a shot of tequila.
That's beautiful Bill Murray right there.
Yeah. Just a guy who does kind of whatever he wants to do.
He does. Yeah. So they play a Pro-Am at Pebble Beach every year, and famously, Bill Murray's been playing in this forever and ever. I didn't get a chance to see this year what he had on, but what's hilarious is he will wear the most like outlandish, craziest outfits.
Yeah.
And he's got such a following there. I mean, like Tiger Woods playing in a group, and they're there to just watch Bill Murray and just the way he interacts with the crowds there.
He's wearing bell bottoms with roses on.
Yeah. But definitely he's one of those guys that you love to love because you can tell he's just so genuine.
Yeah, he's just living life exactly how he wants to live it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For the perfect example of that is The Message Machine. Like, that's how you have to get a hold of him to start a movie. He's not going to deal with anybody else.
Right. It's awesome. And that's one thing, and only one thing that ever gives me pause with Robert De Niro. Love him as an actor, but I don't think he's a very good person.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him outside.
Yeah, he's real political, and he gets kind of outlandish with his ideas, and we'll say some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I did know that about the political, and what kills me about him is he does what I always tell people not to do, is don't just be on your one side no matter what. Like, you should just see what everybody has to say and then decipher what you think is the best.
Sure.
The best way to go. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he's just, no matter what his side is saying, he's like, yep, that's what it is.
Yep, for sure.
Look at him. He's wearing a ghillie suit on a golf course. Yeah. All right. So is that it for the movies?
So that's it for the movies. I know it's shocking that's all we have, but we can get into the other genres another time
on another episode.
Sure.
I think what we'll do right now is we'll take a small break in case anybody has to go to the bathroom, anything like that, and then we'll come back and we'll get this bourbon tasting going. All right, so we were saying we're going to do them neat, but you said that you think water, like a drop or two, brings out something in it?
It brings out aromas. It will bring out little floral nuances out of the bourbon.
Okay.
That you might not otherwise get.
I wish I had a straw so that we could just put little drops in there, but I don't have that.
That's okay. That's okay. I think kind of the cool way to do it is you take a sip, and then, you can even just, actually, we can use this.
Oh, yeah. And just get a little,
Yep.
Just try to get it in there for a little bit of water.
Put a little bit of.
The fight's so real right now. He's trying to scoop out some water from the ice tray I brought in here. I don't think it's going well for him so far.
It's not going very well. There's enough in there, though. So point being, then maybe have a little sip.
Yeah, with that.
Yeah.
What's funny to me is the time I did get to have Pappy 12-year, I had it in my hand, and so did the one owner, and he was like, what I like to do is I like to put just a drop of water in there. I was like, I'm not fucking putting anything in this.
Yeah.
Like,
What are you, crazy?
Yeah, are you out of your mind? Like now that I know that, okay, I might do that with some bourbons. I still don't know if I would do it with Pappy though, because honestly, I got everything I needed from Pappy just out of the Pappy.
And even though I know that, and I've been, as you know, we discussed the Bourbon Trail twice, I still don't really do it. Yeah. Every now and then, if I'm like sitting down, I'm really trying to like see exactly what's part of this bourbon, I might do it.
Right.
But I very rarely. It's not like I'm, oh God, yeah, give me a dropper. I need to put one or two drops.
I was going to say, do you have a dropper behind your bar at your house?
Yeah. Well, I don't. So if that tells you anything, okay. Although it would be kind of funny if I was walking around and instead of having like a compass and a pen in my front pocket, I had a dropper.
Yeah, that would be good. To give you an example of how much I rely on Steve for my bourbon, I'll ask if I'm in the liquor store and I see something that I haven't heard of or I don't know about, I'll shoot him a text. And literally pretty much how he'll let me know whether or not I should get it is he'll send me a picture of it because he has it behind his bar.
Does this tell you anything?
Yeah. He'll say like, this should tell you all you need to know.
Yes. I usually think, and that saves me time maybe from saying, oh, well, a description. And
right.
If you like this, you like that.
Yeah.
But if you, and I think for the most part you do, even though I'm sure we have differences in our palate, for the most part you trust the bourbons that I like and figure, well, if he likes it, then I think I'm going to like it because we do have similar palates.
Yeah, we seem to have similar palates in most alcoholic beverages that we like, whether it be beer, wine. Mm-hmm. I mean, with wine, you definitely have a way more sophisticated palate than mine, but I know that I like cabs, you know?
Yep. And it's only because I hang around Pam that I have a sophisticated palate of wine.
Although I did get to drink that Grange. Isn't that what it's called, Grange? It's an Australian Shiraz.
Yeah,
it's like $750 a bottle.
He sends me photos of it, and it was at
Garden Grove.
Yes, and I'm like, holy, because was that the same night that you had the Pappy?
Yeah, same night.
Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, what's he doing over there?
I literally made, so those guys came right at the very end, and I literally made, it was really slow the whole time. I made $4 in tips, but with the two alcohols I drank, I was probably in like the $70 or $80 range if I would have got it at a bar. So I was like, you know what? Call it even.
Yeah.
Actually, the guys that gave me those drinks, they were like, oh, hold on, we got to tip you. I'm like, no, sir. No, you do not. But so we're going to start the bourbon tasting here.
Yes. And
go ahead. Let me know what we're starting with.
So we're going to actually do a side-by-side because
I like that idea.
Yeah. So we're going to start with Buffalo Trace and Eagle Rare, which, and for those of you that don't know, are made from the same distillery, which is Buffalo Trace. And I think what's cool about doing a little side-by-side is that because they're made from the same distillery, you can kind of see the similarities. I don't know how much truth there is to it. I know that we went to Buffalo Trace in November, and there are a lot of bourbons that they make that, if they don't make the cut, become something else. So, for instance, they make Blantons, they make Weller, they obviously famously make Pappy.
Right.
And then they have Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, they have E.H. Taylor. And there's
Stag.
Yeah, Stag, George T. Stag, which is very difficult to find and also supposed to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Bean might have, he might be able to get that for us, by the way. Yeah, which
tremendous.
Would be awesome.
Yeah. So they say, and I don't know, again, when they say they, I don't know if it's just like a room full of old curmudgeon people who, when they ask questions, they say, why don't you go ask they? And they open up the door and say, hey.
It's a bunch of old guys that look like they're called Pappy.
Yeah. But there are certain ones where if they don't make the cut and they say, well, this is not Blanton's worthy, the rumor is that it becomes one of the other lower priced bourbons.
Okay.
And they even say that about Weller. Well, Weller becomes Blanton's, but I don't know if I necessarily believe all of that because I believe that the Weller is a different recipe than Blanton's.
Well, yeah,
Blanton's
because
is
it's a wheat.
Yeah, is a very specific. Well, this particular one
Is a wheat.
Yeah.
There's other Wellers that aren't a wheat.
Yeah.
The black isn't a wheat, I'm sure.
No.
Probably not the green either. It's just that red.
I'm not sure what the green is, to tell you the truth. That's one I've
shitty
had the
one.
very as Bean says, right?
Man, Bean like did not want us to even think about getting the green. All right, so
Did I give you okay.
Yeah.
So your right one. Wait, let me see. How did I give you this?
I think this is the eagle.
Yes.
And then this is the buffalo. All right. And so we're going to try to take a sip, and then I'm going to try to add a little bit of water to it. Is that what we're doing?
Right.
Okay. So we're starting with the buffalo.
And this is really, there's a lot of heat on that. You know, not initially though.
No.
There's a smoothness to it.
It hits you in the chest a little bit after.
Yep. But it's really good in its own right, and I think for the price you can find it anywhere from 25 to 30. Usually it's around 28.
Yeah, I think we got it for. Did we get it for 25? 24 something?
Yeah.
And then I think the big bottle was 48.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the flavor of it.
I do too.
I can't do the like any notes. Maybe you can get some notes from it.
I mean, the biggest thing I get out of it, to me, there's a little bit of a nuttiness to it.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
And I think more than anything that there's a strong possibility that stuff that Blanton's, like the barrels that they say, okay, this isn't Blanton's worthy. I do think that there's a solid chance
that goes to Buffalo Trace.
it could.
Yeah, I can see that.
More so than say maybe Eagle Rare, and I think we'll see that when we taste it. And of course, EH is just a different flavor altogether.
Yeah.
Than Blanton's. But I think when we go back and we work our way down the road and we get down the road and we get down to Blanton's, it'll be interesting to see since they're the two bookends.
Right.
Smoother, not nearly the heat, but there's just there's some nuttiness there to it.
Yeah, and
and of course a little bit of caramel.
Yeah, I don't get much sweetness out of this one, but a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. And what we might have to do once we get to the end is after we do our first taste of Blanton's, maybe we just have to, just in case, taste them both again, that time with those two side by side.
Which is being responsible, which is why I brought a driver with me tonight.
You're so smart.
She didn't know that when I was like, yeah, you should really come. I really want you there.
You should look up. She's like, oh, good. She's like, oh, good. I'll have some. No, you can't have any drinks. Yeah. She holds up her water bottle. All right, with the water.
Something I failed to say, and interesting though, it did
bring something out.
It did rounded it a little bit, so it wasn't quite as hot. Obviously, the water's going to do that,
which is why I like a rock.
Yes, so definitely one that you wouldn't drink neat. I mean, I think we both agree with that.
Yeah, no.
And I believe we were talking off the air before that this just makes a spectacular old fashioned. Sure, makes a great Manhattan. It's just a good. You could mix it with a Diet Coke, which I've done, and it's really good.
Oh yeah. This is definitely one I would mix with stuff because I'm a firm believer, and I think you most of the time you're on the same page with this too. I'm a firm believer in if it's really good on its own, don't mess with it.
Right.
Don't put E.H. Taylor in an old fashioned.
Yep.
Don't put it with Coke. As a matter of fact, especially with Coke, if I ever see somebody make like a whiskey and Coke with E.H. Taylor, we might be fighting.
Right, right.
And I'm definitely taking the bottle from you and not letting you have it back.
Yes, yes. And because old fashions have become an up-and-coming thing, not that they were ever not a thing.
It's like they made a comeback.
They made a comeback.
Yeah.
So extremely old drink that's made a comeback, and a lot of places are doing their own twist on it. But when I run into people and we start talking about it, I'm always amazed. And it hasn't happened often, and I won't mention names, that when someone tells me that their bourbon of choice or their go-to bourbon for their old-fashioned is Blanton's, I about fall to my knees.
Oh, my God.
I picture myself out-of-body experience of just throwing that person across the room.
Right. Oh, I just pushed them off a bridge in my head.
Yes.
But I agree with you. Buffalo Trace, I think, is a good one for those things. One,
Yep.
the price point is there. Two, it's a little rough on its own.
Yeah.
Like I like it with a cube still. Since I've gotten it. I've drank it quite a few times on a cube.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see making something with it
For sure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Great everyday bourbon.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going Eagle Rare.
Eagle Rare.
Interesting how much different that is than the Buffalo Trace, isn't it?
So much different.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the amount of heat.
No.
Man,
Now, I almost get like a toasted. There's definitely an oakiness to this one.
definitely an oakiness. There's a lot more flavor going on.
Right.
A lot more.
And I think you're going to get that just based on the fact that it's aged longer than Buffalo Trace.
Right.
But there's also some, whatever variety, and I don't have the tasting notes. I apologize, but the breakdown
Hey,
of
Jacob, could you pull up the tasting notes for Eagle Rare real quick? Because I feel like there's something weird I'm getting in there, actually. What were you saying you were getting?
So I get toasted oak, and I'm telling you, there's like a little bit of a raisin.
I was thinking some kind of plant life,
Yeah.
for sure.
And this
So
is
sophisticated plant life.
yes. So they give it, leather and stewed fruits. Interesting, because I like to spend time stewing my fruits.
But my favorite stews have nothing but fruit in them. I like a good hearty orange stew.
Yes. Like, who even says that other than a master taster? It tastes like stewed fruits because we all know that the public can relate to what stewed fruits taste like.
Yeah, go back to that though real quick, because maybe it is the orange peel that I'm getting. Mm-hmm. That might be what I'm getting. Which it's so crazy. I've never noticed it when I had it on the rock.
And they're saying cinnamon, so I'm gonna attribute that to that raisin that I was tasting.
Yeah. Spicy in a spicy vanilla.
Yeah. But if you haven't seen an Eagle Rare bourbon bottle, I suggest that one, you get one just because it's a really good bourbon. But it's a really cool label, and it actually looks like a wine bottle, and it's got an etched eagle in there. It's a spicier bourbon, but enjoyable, very enjoyable.
Put a little bit of water in here. I'll tell you one of the things I enjoy about a lot of the bourbon bottles is they do make me actually feel like I'm just like the shape of them and whatnot. I do actually feel like I'm drinking them out of like the Prohibition era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's besides the design on it, that is a very basic bottle.
And that's the thing that kills me about Pappy. I mean, Pappy looks like someone bottled it in their garage and just found like a bottle and slapped a label on it. Like, and I'm paying $500 for this?
Yeah. Can we get a little creative here, please? Man, we could really use an eyedropper over here for the battle you got going on.
I got it.
We have Steve fighting to the death with the water, and then we have Pam chasing her puppy. She brought their puppy. What's his name again?
So his name is Monsignor Orsini.
Oh, Monsignor Orsini.
Orsini.
And she's chasing him all around because he has now shit in the studio. Steve went, let's hit the pause and we'll clean up the dog shit and then we'll continue the podcast. All right, we're on. So right now we're doing the Boone County.
Boone County.
So tell me a little bit about this because we cannot get this in this area, correct?
Right. So for whatever reason, and I don't know what the reason is, and I'm sure they have one, I think what I've heard, and this is just folklore, that the family that distills this bourbon in Boone County, Kentucky, one of the people in the family is a serial killer, and therefore they just don't want to run the risk of selling things outside of the state to shine any sort of light on the family.
Hold on, is this real?
No.
Dude, you had me. And I remember you told me something about it before the podcast, and I was like, hold on, did I miss a lot when he was talking earlier?
So I couldn't help myself. It just
That was good.
all right. So
I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Forget the tasting.
Yeah.
Let's look up this story.
right.
All right, so go ahead.
Sort of a Jeffrey Dahmer thing going on there in Kentucky, Boone County. I mean, what do you think of when you think of Boone County?
I think of a not so great place.
Right.
I feel a little bit of a deliverance.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the movie Wrong Turn. Maybe a little bit of Wrong
yeah,
Turn.
little Wrong Turn in there. Yeah, 1 through 5.
There you go. All right. So Boone County, anyhow, it's actually one of the first counties you come to when you get into Kentucky from Cincinnati, when you're driving through that way coming
Okay.
from Ohio. They, for whatever reason, do not distribute outside of the state of Kentucky. I'm sure there's different regulations, and maybe they just never went to that extent. But what that has created is a demand for a craft bourbon that's a very good bourbon that's reasonably priced. So the one we're having today is just their small batch bourbon. They do have a 12-year bourbon, and beyond that, I'm not sure. But it is hard to find. When we were there in Louisville, actually it was Lexington, they have a lot of small boutique bourbon places where what they do is they get the hard-to-find bourbons, and then they sell them for a little bit higher markup.
Okay.
Which would explain like where you work when the guy, the one guy got the McKenna for like $250.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. So
Real quick, for those that don't know, McKenna's about probably a $60 MSRP.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, you had to pay like $250 for it.
So with the bourbon, or with the Boone County, it is typically about $40 to $45. I paid $50 for this, which I thought was reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And heard it was great, but hadn't had it, and then of course really liked it. So let's
give it a
little
taste.
taste.
See what we got going on. I do like it. It doesn't not too much burn. I'm getting it a little bit more in my chest now, but still, it's not bad.
No. And especially for, what I believe to be, even though it doesn't state it, somewhere around a 6-7 year aged bourbon.
Oh, really?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah. No,
I mean, it's got to be, in order to be a bourbon, it's got to be aged at least a minimum of 3.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And anything less than 3 is called a whiskey.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. So that's what the difference.
Right. Among other things, you've got a certain amount of corn. I believe it's got to be, and I'd have to look it up, but I think 50% corn. And then from there, you can use whatever other ingredients, your rye, your malts, and whatever else you're going to put in there. So let's see. So it'll be interesting what you think. Here, put a little bit of water in it. But it, to me, has a lot of orange peel.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say the fruit. I see on there it says cherries. I don't know if I really get much cherries. It actually doesn't even say orange peel, but I get orange.
I do too. And I don't know if that's just something with my taste buds, because everybody can be a little bit different.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's a citrus note, it says right there,
Yeah.
and tangerine or sweet orange.
I do definitely get a little bit of vanilla, and I find that
I did, yeah.
like my some of the wines that I really love have a little bit of a hint of vanilla, like Camus. Did you like this one?
Pam is getting her taste on. Man, see, you add that little bit of water to this, and now I really like it.
Yeah. So here's one that I do drink neat from time to time.
Yeah.
But I think One Rock, spectacular.
Yeah, it's definitely drinkable neat for sure. But I think I would like it with a rock.
Yeah. So I had to pull it up real quick just so that I make sure that it's correct. It's not 50%. It's got to be 51% of corn.
Okay, 51%.
And
51%.
51. It does not have to be made in Kentucky, though. I mean, most people probably know that because they've had really good bourbons from Utah. Utah makes some spectacular bourbons.
Really?
There's a really good bourbon actually made in New York called Widow Jane.
Oh.
The Utah bourbons
I
that
was going to say, can you think of a Utah one?
it's called High West.
Oh, yeah, I see. Those, they have that at Wintersville Kroger's,
Yes,
I think.
and those are hidden gems for sure, just like this Boone County, because I think a lot of people don't even mess with it because they're like, well, it's High West, it's Utah. Really good bourbons. They make a lot of ryes, and they make a lot of blended bourbons, which some people kind of shy away from, but the one I like the best is the double, I think they just call it double rye, and they do have it from time to time here locally.
They got a couple of High West. I don't know if they have the double rye there, but you know who you should talk to sometime when you're in there is Gary, the skinny one.
Okay, with the beard.
Yeah. He can actually like tell you some stories about the different bourbons because High West. The only reason I realized it was there is because he pointed it out to me. Yeah. He goes, "These guys actually make a pretty good bourbon."
They really do.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, oh, it has to be made in Kentucky to be a bourbon, and that's just not the case. But one thing you learn from being there is that they have a lot of limestone, so their water is apparently tremendous water.
Limestone makes good water?
Yes.
Oh, who knew?
And
Well, you
Also
did.
why the racehorses are bred there because it's high in calcium.
yeah.
The water.
So stronger bones make stronger horses who race faster.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Well, they race faster because, the bones don't break when they go faster, right?
Right.
That's what it is?
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the limestone?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
who knew? I had no idea about any of that. Now I know. Knowing's half the battle.
Yeah, that's right.
G.I. Joe.
So the next bourbon tasting you do with whoever it is,
I could bring that up.
you can drop some knowledge on them.
Well, for now, it might just be me because we're about to go on this complete shutdown, but I'll tell myself. All right, so next we got the... actually, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about this one, too, because you you have a little bit of knowledge behind this one, too.
This is a really cool story. I can't remember the guy's name, and God forbid you're not going to see it. You're not going to find it on this signature, but when Jacob pulls it up, we'll be able to tell you this guy's name. Young guy decides he's going to... decides that he's going to get into the bourbon game and start making his own craft bourbon. And I don't know the tie-in as to why he calls it Jefferson's. It's clearly named after Thomas Jefferson because that's the watermark that's on most of the bottles.
Yeah.
But the story about it is cool because when you go to this distillery, it is literally like walking into someone's garage and seeing them making
that's right.
bourbon.
Yeah.
And you would never think it because it's got a high-end label, a high-end bottle, cool bottle, and he does a lot of progressive things that no one else in the industry is doing. And one of the things that he does...
Yeah. When you're done, I'll read this after you're done.
So one of the things that he does that's really cool is he will contract with wineries, high-end wineries that make high-end cabs, and then also came up with this idea of aging bourbon on ocean liners, freight liners. And that's become a pretty famous label, Jefferson's Ocean.
And now supposedly what that does is it actually ages it faster, correct?
That is correct.
Because of the motion in the ocean
Right.
gets the bourbon the more of the bourbon to hit the outside of the wall.
Right.
So a wall of the barrel.
Exactly. So the story behind it is when he first tried it and they got the bourbon barrels back, the bourbon was horrible because it had aged for too long in a short period of time on these liners, and it was actually not even drinkable.
Wow.
Because initially they decided we'll because they do age it for a certain amount of time on land, and then they take it to the liners. And originally they were like, all right, we'll do 5 years. Well, now what they found is they really only need to do a year to 18 months because it
Holy shit.
speeds it up that long. So they do a minimum of 2 I believe 2 on land, and they do about 2 on the liner, and in some cases they may even do less because they still got to get that 3 years in to be officially called a bourbon. So a lot of these bourbons that he has haven't been aged as long as some of the other bourbons. And for the price, you'd be like, why am I paying that for a bourbon that maybe's only been aged 5 years? Whereas
it's what they do.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's an interesting story. A lot of people there that I found in Kentucky don't necessarily like the guy in the process because they feel like he's too new age and
He's
gimmicky.
doing too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is interesting because their regular one is reasonable. I think it's like $50.
And I think it's less than that. I think you can get it for 40.
Yeah, it might
45.
be 40. Might be 40, 45. But all of their variations seem to be about $89.99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So about this, about Jefferson's. Founded in 1997, Jefferson's is the brainchild of Trey, I'm going to go with Zoller, and his father, Chet, which is a solid name. A famed bourbon.
Makes me immediately think of Weird Science.
Yes, a famed bourbon historian. They were continuing a family tradition that goes back to Trey's 8th generation grandmother, who was arrested in 1799 for the production and sales of spirituous liquors.
Liqueurs.
What the fuck?
No, I'm just kidding.
But still, well, what? Production and sales of spirituous, whatever, liquors to personify the brand. They chose Thomas Jefferson, known for his curiosity and experimental spirit. So they played that well because that's definitely what they're doing, being experimental. Yeah. This is a mindset to which Trey has dedicated himself, pushing the boundaries of the definition of bourbon, upholding tradition, yet always discovering new possibilities. That's actually pretty cool right there.
Yep. Yeah, so it's a really cool little distillery. I would highly recommend it. It's one of those places that, I don't know, it's just a very one-on-one feel to it. It was just us with one of the tour guides. Just to give a comparison, at Buffalo Trace, you're with a group of 20, 25 people. Still very cool. Still highly recommend it because the one thing Buffalo Trace does, which is really smart on their part, is they take you through the bottling of a Blanton's bottle, which is so cool to see.
That is cool. Yeah. Now Buffalo Trace is free to tour.
Right.
Is Jefferson's?
Jefferson's is not. I believe it's $10.
Okay.
$10 per person.
Which, yeah. Okay. Fuck yeah. I'll do that. I'll go twice.
Right. Yeah. And the thing about that is because it's such a small, intimate tasting, you can kind of feel your taster out or your guide out. And like in our case, when we went, once we were done with what we had tasted, which is I believe 3 different bourbons, maybe 4. It's like, hey, I noticed that the Twin Oak wasn't part of the tasting. Is there any chance we can try that? He was like, let me see what I can do. Goes out into a different room.
I feel like you wanted to use like an Italian accent there so bad. let me see what I can do.
Yeah. He comes back in. He's like, I got it. And then he's taking these, because typically they only give you a very small amount, maybe 1/4 ounce.
Yeah.
At the most, a 1/2 ounce.
Okay.
Pour for a tasting. And so we had a lot of fun there. But we definitely had people in the group that were like, I won't go back there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Now, HA, did you have to make an appointment for? Because I also know Buffalo Trace, you don't have to make an appointment
You do
either.
not. No. They recommend that you at least let them know if you have a group more than like 6.
Okay.
Jefferson's, you absolutely have to have an appointment. A lot of them you do.
Yeah.
The bigger ones you don't. You could show up at Jim Beam anytime, any day of the week, and they're going to take you.
Do we want to go there?
Here's what I will tell you that a lot of people don't know. So I'll tell you this, and you probably know this because you've been into bourbon for a while now. Jim Beam makes Bakers. They make Bookers. Bookers is a really, really good bourbon. Bakers is very good too. But
I actually haven't had either of those.
So that's going to have to be on the board for the next one. They also make Basil Hayden, but what people don't realize, and the reason why people think Basil Hayden is its own product, is Basil Hayden has its own single distillery called Basil Hayden, but the same owners of Jim Beam own Basil Hayden. So
does Jim Beam also own Old Granddad?
I'm not sure. I believe Old Granddad is a Heaven Hill product.
Okay.
But it's probably a descendant of Jim Beam.
Well, because he's definitely, from what Gary told me, and then I looked up, and I believe it said exactly that. If not, it was very close to that, is Basil Hayden is Old Granddad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like not the bourbon, but the actual person. Basil Hayden is Old Granddad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Old Granddad is Basil Hayden, I guess we should say.
One thing you definitely find out that I didn't know until the first time we went.
I was about to say, man, you didn't give me any.
I know. Is that Jim Beam really owns the Jim Beam family and all its tentacles runs the whole Bourbon Trail. And I shouldn't say the whole Bourbon Trail. Obviously, you have guys like who you just talked about, that Trey Zeller, who have their own thing. And Boone County, I don't believe, has any. There's a lot of distilleries that I'm sure don't have any kind of Beam influence or family, but Wild Turkey does. Four Roses, I believe, does. There's just a lot. Maker's Mark, I believe there's someone in Maker's Mark family that was related or married into the Beam. They're just all over the place.
Not a big Maker's Mark fan. I was going to say, you said Four Roses, and it made me think, you said you had that rare Four Roses.
Yes. So Four Roses has come out with, to date, about 12 or 13 experimental batches of bourbon that they're making. And it is the same exact bottle that you would see the single barrel.
Okay. Which is their best bottle.
Right. A really cool bottle.
Yeah.
But the difference is it has a label on the side of the bottle that explains the exact combination involved in the bourbon making. So it'll tell you how much corn, how much rye, and if there's wheat in it. They have some that have wheat in it, some that have no wheat in it. They have some that are way more predominant with rye and some that aren't. But they all go for roughly around $90 a bottle, so it's like double the price.
Yeah, for sure.
So you want to know your taste first before you get into buying those bottles and just blindly buying one.
Yeah.
That you may hate because it's nothing like what your palate is. And we did a little bit of research on a few of them and found, so we were lucky enough to find a liquor store in New Jersey that had two different strains.
Okay.
And the one that was like 130 versus the one that was 90, the one that was 130, I think pretty sure I was going to hate because it was probably going to be way too sweet. It had a ton of wheat in it. I tend to gravitate a little more towards the spicier bourbons.
Okay, yeah.
Now I do. When I first started drinking bourbon, I definitely liked the sweeter bourbons that had more caramel and more vanilla.
Right, because they take some of that bite away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then as you your palate grows, I think you start to really enjoy some of the other bourbons that bring a little more spiciness to it and bring some other flavors that way.
Yeah. The for example, when you say you might want to know, the only bourbon I haven't really liked is that Ocean's Voyage 12. There's just something about it I can't get on board with. But Four Roses, real quick about that, I told you that I took it with me to the club just in case because I didn't know what their bourbon selection would be.
Yeah. And
I was going to donate it. I had the single barrel. I was going to donate it if I didn't see anything. But when I went in there, I was like, they have Woodford. I haven't tried Woodford. They had something else there that was decent. But I had said that to Jeff Summers, our friend Jeff, and I said I had that. I was going to donate it if you guys didn't have anything. He's like, that's a really good donation. I was like, well, just let me go grab it. The reason I took that one is because after my first initial bourbon purchase, it was the first one I tasted. And I was like, I don't really care for this. Well, now I've drank so much bourbon that I ended up having a glass of it while I was there. And I was like, fuck, I love this.
What am I thinking?
Yeah, I can't believe I just donated this. You know what? Hey, just hand it back to me. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Have a little taste, and then I'm going to take that back.
Yeah. But so now I have to buy another bottle before it was a single barrel. But you told me that my palate would change, and it changed pretty quickly because that was only probably a month into me drinking bourbon.
Sure.
But I hadn't tried it since I tried it the first time because I was like, nah, I don't really care for this.
Right.
And then I tried it that night, and I was like, fuck, this is delicious.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those where you got to figure out what's maybe the way you like that bourbon best. And that might be one where I know a lot of times if I'm going to have that, I'm probably putting a cube in it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Or a little bit of water in
Yeah.
it. Because if you drink it neat, it's almost like it's too much heat and it hits you too much where you can't even kind of get the flavor.
And honestly, that might be why I mess up because I also, when I made my first bourbon purchase, I also got these Glencairn glasses. Is it right? That's what these are?
Yes, Glencairn, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to use these glasses. And they told me that I should drink it neat out of there. So I poured some neat, and that might be why. But I guess I should get to tasting this. Huh?
Right. So
actually
we're going to
talk
taste. It took a long time to get there, didn't it?
Yeah.
Jacob's over there like, oh, my God.
These fucking guys, I want to go
like-
home.
He's like, thank God I have nothing else to do.
Thank God we're on quarantine. He's getting Pam's approval.
All right, so again, we're doing the Groth Reserve Cask, and it's such a cool idea that I love. So it ages, I'm not sure, I'm not going to be exact on the time, but it ages a couple years in their regular bourbon barrels, and then they pull it out for I believe like the last year or 18 months, and then they age it in what was aged in the Groth Cabernet. So they contract with Groth, and they purchase their barrels after they're done using them, and that's what they put it in and let it age. So it's a 6-year age.
So it's a 6-year age, and it starts out in their regular bourbon barrels, and they take it out, and they have purchased from Groth Winery or whatever,
Yep.
and they're cab barrels, right?
Right.
And then they put it in the cab barrel for whatever amount of time they decide.
Right. And they get to a total of 6. So my guess is they're either doing 3 and 3, maybe 4 and 2, or 2 and 4, something along those lines.
Well, that is smooth.
That is smooth. And what's interesting,
I actually get some of the grape in the cab.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy shit, I like this a lot.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
And this is one where, unlike some of the others that we've talked about, it's not one that I would be okay putting a cube in it, but I definitely wouldn't think about mixing that one bit.
I wouldn't put this with anything else. I might put a cube. I don't know what it is. I prefer the cube. I kind of like what happens as the cube starts to melt. I don't know what it is. It's like I get different flavors as I go.
And I know on the board, one of the things it says, and I think that actually holds true with this, with the finish, it's smooth, and it definitely is. And it says the wine tannins, which I think is what makes this unique, is that it's pulling from that wine barrel the tannins that so many people love.
Yeah.
Pam included. That it just gives it a unique, like, I've never had a bourbon with quite that finish.
Man, no, this is really good. This one took me by surprise. I'll tell you what's crazy is I like under flavor, taste, palate. It says mature and velvety, but what's weird is the Scottish bread pudding. I want to know how you got Scottish bread pudding flavor in here. Like, how do you manage that?
Right, right.
I almost don't even want to put water in this.
No. And I didn't put any, and I don't think I'm going to. We do have 2 other bourbons to taste.
God, that's good.
Yeah. It is definitely good, and I can't say for sure that we'll ever be able to get it again. I'm sure at some point they'll do another.
Yeah.
They have since moved on. They've got one now with Pritchard Hill. I haven't tried it. Same sort of thing. Pritchard Hill, good Cabernet, California Cab. So I think he's going to continue to do these collaborations, which is cool. And I think I'm kind of into more trying these sort of things because I've done enough of the ocean voyages where it's like I'm not sure I'm sold on that, and for the price you got to pay for those.
I know people tell me that you don't actually taste the salt in there, but I swear to God, that's my problem with it is I taste the salt. I swear. I keep not saying it because people keep telling me, no, you don't get the salt. I swear to God, I get a saltiness. I think that's my problem with it. It's like it makes me think of saltwater taffy, which I also hate.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the saltwater taffy myself. I never quite got that whole thing.
Now, I know you only have a little bit of that left.
Oh no, this is going to be donated.
What? Seriously?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I want to taste a little bit of this again, and I'm going to hold this off to the side. When you say donate, you don't mean you're leaving the rest of this here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Oh man.
If it even makes it through the night.
Oh. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
I think Pam wants some more.
You want some of this?
Is that what I had just now?
Yeah.
I like the one before that better.
The Boone County.
Oh wow, she's about that Boone County life.
She likes Boone County.
It's because she likes to take the wrong turn.
Yeah. She's defiant. She's like Ned Beatty in Defiance.
All right, now this. Now we're
who the hell is Ned?
I think he means Warren. Which, by the way, an underrated Warren Beatty movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I'm pretty sure it's Warren Beatty. Watch now, I'm gonna fuck myself up. But God, what's it called?
What's it about?
What's
it about?
He's a politician, and he's trying to get himself killed so that he gets to give his family.
Heaven Can Wait?
No. This is much newer.
That's an underrated one.
Yeah. It's called. I don't know.
He's a politician.
Go up. Go down.
Oh, there's a good one.
Bulworth. Click on Bulworth. It has him and Halle Berry in it. So he plays a politician who he's like, I don't remember if he's in debt or if he's just hating life, but he tries to get somebody to kill him so his family can collect the insurance money. And he ends up just losing his shit. He's getting hammered drunk. He ends up starting to run for president. He's just getting fucked up all the time. He's staying up till whatever time in the morning. He starts giving his political speeches and debates because he's hanging out with Halle Berry and all this urban group in raps. But when you listen to the raps and then you listen to the lyrics, he's like saying really good things. And it's a really good movie.
Huh.
I mean, it's definitely...
I've never even heard of it.
I haven't either.
Oh, check it out. But it was definitely Warren Beatty.
So definitely you already heard my all-time favorite Warren Beatty movie because that's the one I threw out earlier, Heaven Can Wait.
Oh, yeah. Heaven Can Wait is where a football player dies. Yeah. That's an excellent movie. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Does he play for the Rams?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Good memory.
Rams fan.
Yep. Well, there you go.
Not this year, though, these fucks. Go to the Super Bowl, come back, be shitty. All right, so now we're moving on. I'm just going to say the name of this one because so far this has been my favorite bourbon, although I may have just changed that to this that I'll probably never be able to get again in my life. So
I'm going to be on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you never know. Because we toured there, I could call. I could say, hey, if you got any of that left.
Yeah, because, man, that's good. But we're going to the E.H. Taylor small batch.
Yeah. So this one, absolutely love it. And each time I have had it over the last 4 or 5 months, I just like it or love it that much more every time I have it.
That's the same way I feel about it. Did you buy a backup bottle this last time it came in?
I did, thanks to my lovely wife.
She made it in there.
Yeah. And it was the last one they had, and I was getting nervous because I don't think you went till about 12:30. And, you've got vultures out there.
Yeah.
Hang out at 9 o'clock right when it opens.
Yeah, and luckily
the
it wasn't
Capito Group.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I didn't even tell him to hold one because when I went in there, I was the only person. And I hung out there for a while, and I was still the only person. So I didn't even tell him to hold one for you. So I'm glad. And plus, I wasn't sure how intrigued you were from our messages because it was Buffalo Trace, which we like, but it's their lower end.
Yeah.
We just bought E.H. Taylor and Eagle Rare. So I was like, I don't know if he's going to come or not. But I wish I would have told him now. He got the last one.
Hey, That's okay.
Yeah.
You still got it.
Yeah.
And they had it right out on the shelf.
Yeah, they're just putting them out on the shelves now. Same thing with the Blantons when we went in. Oh, we had one behind there for you.
They never put Blanton.
So, but
They put it right on the shelf now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes, I mean, I get it. It makes sense. And they're limiting one per customer for Blanton's and E.H.
Yeah.
Taylor, right?
Yeah, and Eagle Rare, and just anything from Buffalo Trace. Even the Buffalo Trace was one per bottle.
Really?
But I bought one of each. But but also, but I'll tell you what. Actually, shout out to Bean as well, because I wanted to buy a second bottle of Eagle Rare this last time because I wanted one for my brother for his birthday.
Now, don't get him in trouble here.
Well, he bought it for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, really, man? You don't have to do that. He was like, no, man. We just love you guys. And I'm like, but that's really nice, man.
He seems like a fantastic guy, and it's not just because he makes me happy because I get bourbon from him.
It just seems like such a nice guy.
Yeah,
You know.
and I mean, he will really go very, very high up on my list when he comes back from Akron with a bottle of Weller.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's when he gets put into my will.
Yeah. That's when he gets a little cut. Yeah. They kept saying there was something wrong with my application at Kroger's. So I did just get hired at Kroger's. I'm actually going to be working in the liquor store.
Shocking.
Yeah, because a lot of listeners know, I was a bartender where obviously no bartenders are working anymore. So I wanted to find something that I knew for sure was going to be available to me. It wasn't going to close. That's a grocery store. So I went and applied, and I got put in the liquor store. Thank God. But
Perfect.
But Bean, once I told him I had applied, they kept saying that there was something wrong with the application. They couldn't find it, and Bean wasn't having it. He was like, did they contact you yet? And I said, no. Apparently there's something wrong with the application. He goes, I got it. Said, did they contact you yet? I said, no. He goes, give it another 5 minutes. He goes, let me talk to somebody. Next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call.
Yeah.
And then when I walked in today, they were like, the liquor store already claimed you, so that's where you're going to be working. And I was like, all right, guys.
Yeah.
Between him and Gary, I guess they really pushed for me to get the job.
That's great.
Even though they also both may have told me not to work there. But since I wanted the job, they made sure I got it. Yeah.
That nice. Good. That's good. And I can tell you that that's a very smart hire on their part, because I could see people coming in and they're like, oh, I'm coming in, I'm going to get a bottle of New Amsterdam vodka.
Yeah.
Or Tito's, and then next thing you know, you spew some knowledge on them and talk to them, and they're walking out with a case of liquor.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got Buffalo Trace, they got gin and tequila, and
or they at least upgrade. Like, even though I don't think Crystal Skull vodka is that good, I tell them the story about how they filter it through diamonds.
yeah,
Because that's what Dan Aykroyd is telling the world, so I have to assume it's true.
Right.
Right.
And you're right, it's not that good.
No,
but I, of course, have to have a bottle for my bar. Because
You have to.
Yeah.
It's the coolest bottle in the liquor world.
What a great gimmick.
How about today during the orientation? They said, "And where are you going to be working?" And I said, "Alcohol." They said, "You mean the liquor store?" All right. So anyway,
So part of the reason why I think I love this one so much is because it does have a little bit of that vanilla.
it's got a
in it.
sweetness to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not too sweet. It's not too sweet. I'm out here.
Yeah, you were a little bit far out. Yeah.
It's not too sweet. That vanilla is really, really embracing. Dare I say it? It gives it warmth.
Yeah. It's like it gives you a little hug.
It's like a warm vagina.
It's like a warm vagina on a cold night.
It reminds me of the river.
Yeah, E.H. Taylor and vagina, two of my favorite things.
No.
Oh no!
I can see where this is headed, and I don't like the end of that street.
It is not a dead end. It keeps going. I love this.
But it's got the combos of all the things I like, because I like, as I've mentioned probably too many times already, I like a little bit of a spicier bourbon.
Yeah.
This has had a little bit of spice.
Definitely has spice. It's
It's got
bite.
those other hints.
Yeah. It actually has quite a few sweet things in it, but it's not overpoweringly sweet. I mean, it's got brown sugar, sweet vanilla, and then it just says sweet, caramel, butterscotch, but it's not overpoweringly sweet.
No.
And it says spicy real big right there, actually, on some old guy's face.
Yep. Yes, it does. We're not sure who that is. I don't believe that's actually E.H. Taylor.
I don't believe that is either. He's wearing one of those weird Shakespearean things around his neck. I don't.
Maybe that is Will Shakespeare.
It might be Billy Shakespeare.
One of the cool things, though, that you have to do, and I've already had too much bourbon, so I won't be able to actually
Do a suicide, pour them all together.
Well, no.
I'm just kidding.
No, I won't be able to give you the verbatim of the story because it's such an awesome story, but you really got to do a little research if you haven't already. And I say you, I don't mean you personally, but
everybody,
and find out the story of how Pappy became Pappy, because there's a tie-in with Colonel E.H. Taylor.
Okay.
And there's a tie-in with, I believe his name was Arthur Blanton, although I could be wrong on that. We'll find out because we have a bottle pretty close here. And the whole reason why Buffalo Trace got ownership of Blanton's or of Pappy is because he ran out of the barrels that had the original Pappy in from years ago, made it a completely different distillery. And it was this time it's his son. And it wasn't even known as Pappy Van Winkle at that time. It was just known as Van Winkle, Rip Van Winkle. So there's a Rip Van Winkle,
okay,
which is a 10-year. And then...
Is it Rip Van Winkle, the old folklore, fell asleep forever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm asking Pam just to take some random pictures of us, especially like both of us, whole table, things like that.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Randomly.
See how good she is.
So good.
All right, so go ahead. Rip Van
So
Winkle.
real quick on that whole story with it, just to he ran out of barrels of what they had at that distillery at the time, where they were just basically storing it for him, and then he was bottling it pretty much out of his home.
Yeah.
And people were, it just got a strong following because people loved it, and it was tremendous. But at that point, they weren't making a 20 or 23. I think they did a 15, and they were the first ones, or he was the first one, the son, to even come up with the idea to age a bourbon that long.
Oh, really?
And then he kept pushing the envelope, thinking, well, if we can age at 15 and it's this good, what about doing a 20? What about doing a 23?
They have a 20 for sure. Is there a 23 as well?
There's 23,
Holy
and that's
shit.
the highest M1, and I think it first debuted, I believe, in the 90s sometime.
Probably going for like $4,000 or $5,000 a bottle.
Oh, yeah. So he ended up contracting with Buffalo Trace because he knew he had to have some place to be able to make it, and it's not the exact same recipe from those original barrels, but it's pretty darn close. And now it can be produced on a little bit more of a bigger scale, even though it's still crazy hard to find.
Oh, yes. That's the unfortunate thing is I want people to understand, too, that Buffalo Trace itself is reasonably priced, all of their different bourbons. It's the aftermarket price that makes it so crazy. Like Pappy Van Winkle's $100.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but you got to buy it for $2,000 because of the aftermarket.
The 12-year-old Pappy Van Winkle is a retailed $100 bottle of,
yeah, and
or
you're gonna
even 90 you could get it for.
yeah, but you're gonna pay $400 to $1,000 for the 12-year. I believe it is.
Yep.
And I will say this: I'll never have my hands on it, so it can't really be my favorite because I can't keep it on my fucking shelf. But that was an just incredible experience having that bourbon. I mean, it was smooth but spicy.
Yep.
Like I don't even know how to describe it. It was a different experience for me.
Sure.
It let me know where bourbon can go, I guess I should say.
Yep.
Because that was excellent.
And I really think, although you're seeing more and more of it now, but I think you're definitely going to see, because of this bourbon boom, more distilleries attempting to do these really aged bourbons and see what they come up with. And I'm sure a lot of them already are in the process. They just aren't done yet.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about because Scotch has been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And it's crazy that Scotch is so readily available.
Yeah.
Like all the best Scotches you can pick up at almost any store.
Yeah.
But bourbon, you got to be there first thing in the morning on delivery day.
It didn't used to be that way, though. But
Yeah.
so it is. But yeah, this E.H. Taylor is spectacular. Not as hard to find as Blanton's.
No. I would say every couple of months, if you get there first thing in the morning, you can get it.
Yeah. And it comes with a really cool cylinder tin that you hate to throw away. I mean, I believe I've kept mine to this point.
Yeah, I have
because
two
I'm
of them.
sad.
Yeah, I have two of them now, and I don't want to throw them away. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I don't want to throw them away.
In kind of a funny story, I don't know if it's funny, if it's more of, I don't know, Steve, you may have a problem. I think he has a problem. I think that's my Jim Gaffigan voice.
that was actually an excellent Jim Gaffigan voice.
Yeah.
All I could think of was Hot Pockets.
He likes Hot Pockets. He's weird.
All right, so what's the
All
story?
right, so the story with the Blantons is I cannot physically throw out a bottle of Blanton's because I think the bottle was so cool. There's so much novelty behind it. I just refuse to throw a bottle out.
You know what it is? It's a holy hand grenade.
Ooh, that's a good...
From Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
Another worthy top 10 all-time
Comedy.
Yeah.
Man, the ultimate scene in that movie is the one with the Black Knight.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, "'Tis a scratch. I've had worse." Like, dude, you have no legs and no arms. What do you mean it's a scratch? Actually, Jacob, can you pull up Holy Hand Grenade? I want to see how similar it is. But for some reason in my head, that's what I'm picturing.
It's such a cool bottle.
It's an awesome bottle. It has an awesome top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Similar.
Really close.
Yeah.
Almost makes you wonder if that's where they came up with the idea.
Yeah. Who knows? But it is a really cool bottle.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, since we're going to be getting into it soon, Blanton's has a really cool novelty where they have a pewter horse on top of the bottle, and there's a letter that's associated, and the horse is in a different pose
For each letter.
Yeah. And it spells out Blanton's. And so there's a really cool thing to do. You collect all the letters, and if you line them up according to how Blanton's is spelled, it shows a horse from the starting line to the finish line in different poses. So it's kind of an awesome thing. They've taken some criticism over the years for it because I think other distilleries, jealous of the fact that one, Blanton's is a really good bourbon, but number two, they've also figured out a way to corner a market and make it almost novelty, if you will, to be able to find the different letters. So you might have It used to be you would maybe have someone go out and just buy a whole case of Blanton's because they're looking for a certain letter. Well, now they don't let you do that anymore.
Yeah, so for example, I'd say our Wintersville Kroger's right now it seems like it might get one case every quarter, and that's 6 bottles, and they're gone within the first hour.
Yeah,
of them opening.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We and I can admit this without feeling too bad about it, but we were lucky enough, and this was, I believe, over Christmas break.
We've sent our children.
Yeah, so Pam was there shopping. She immediately texted me at work, and also my oldest. And the next thing you know, I'm leaving work. I drive there. She had already been there, bought one bottle because it's one per customer. And as I am walking into the liquor store, Brady is walking out with Carly, who had just purchased one. And then I go in to get mine, after we exchange some pleasantries and laugh a little bit about it,
Yeah.
about, how sad it is that we're doing this. And then I go in and the woman said, "Oh, yeah, I was expecting you. Someone was just in and said some bald guy will be coming in and getting that other bottle."
Thanks, son.
Yeah.
Now remember I told you that I had given our friend Justin a plank that had all the bottle tops on it already.
Yes.
So I was going to take it, and Justin wasn't there the night I was at their house, and because we were watching the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder 2 fight over there.
Yeah.
But I got a little fuckered up, so I didn't remember to take it. Well, it's a good thing I didn't, because Justin did inform me, because his last name is Blanton. Justin did inform me that I did not give it to him. His parents did. So I definitely was not allowed to have it.
Right.
But that works out well anyway, because I want to collect it on my own. It's going to be
Right.
a little difficult, because the other thing is they have no rhyme or reason to why they put what letter
That's
on what
absolutely
bottle.
right.
It's not like they say, okay, this series of bottles is all going to be L's. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
And we saw that firsthand, and
Yeah.
Pam can attest to that. So we part of the Buffalo Trace tour, which I recommend anyone do. It's free. They make a lot of great bourbons, and it's a cool tour. They take you through the bottling of Blantons, and you actually see them putting the pewter horses on the bottle and then waxing it by hand. There's a machine that helps them, but a lot of it's almost all by hand. They have a big bin of those stoppers, as they call them, that they pull from and put on, and they do not know what letter it is. So you could have a case that has theoretically 6 different letters.
Yeah, which makes it harder to collect them. But now, just every time it comes in, I'm just going to have to cipher through and find the one that I need.
And, I can't believe I forgot to add this part of the story, but it's kind of cool that it comes up now. So I told the story when we first started about how I went to Chester and, the trials and tribulations of the toll bridge and thinking I might lose my life because the guy probably had a double buck shotgun behind the counter, and I didn't know if I had 75 cents.
And you were definitely out of place.
Yeah, and it had to be the exact change. He wasn't taking a dollar bill. So there was that part of it, the stress of that. It was raining really hard. It was New Year's Eve. There was a lot of added stress in that trip. I get home. We finally get to start enjoying the bottle of Blanton's, and I check to see what the letter is, and that letter completed my 7 letters. How crazy
No
is
shit.
that?
That's awesome. You didn't even think to look at the time.
No. I
wow.
was so happy just to get the bottle.
Yeah.
And it was an L. I needed an L, which is odd because most people either need the N, one of the N's. So there's 2 N's, obviously, in Blanton's,
Right.
and you have an N1 and an N2, and they put 2 little dots down by the corner, and usually the N2 is the hardest one to find. That's
8 letters.
what did I say, 7?
Yeah. Isn't it 8?
We're doing a count here. It's 8 letters.
So 2 N's, 8 letters. It was the 8th letter, the L, and it was an L. And now, since then, it seems like I get the L all the time.
Yeah.
And the ends are different.
I think this one here is an L.
They're different poses of the horse.
Yeah.
Right,
And I think mine is in fact an L.
Nice.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. I guess the point of it that I'm trying to get across is I think it's a lot of fun to just get it on your own.
Yeah.
You can get on Blanton's. Blanton's has a website. You can get on there. You can order whatever letter you want.
Yeah,
but
I don't
what
wanna do
fun
that.
is that?
Yeah.
What fun is that?
I would have tried to get it all my own. And the other cool thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you collect them all, you can actually send them to the distillery, and they will actually put them on a plank for you.
Yeah, I wish I knew that I wish I knew that about 2 years ago, but that is correct.
Do they even charge you for it?
I'm not sure. I don't think they do, but
It
I'm
would
not
make
positive.
sense. I mean, it's okay if they do, obviously,
Yeah.
because they're giving you something, so they can charge you for it. That makes sense. But it would also make sense if they didn't charge you for it, because you've obviously spent money trying to collect the letters.
Yes.
But
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, but so we're moving on to Blantons.
Right. So I've since rinsed my Glencairn.
That's what I'm about to do now.
Not to be confused with Glen Neese.
Who's Glen Neese?
Glen Neese is a local legend.
No.
He's the son of a local legend,
Okay.
John Neese. John Neese was a coach, a principal, and a tremendous teacher at Wintersville, Indian Creek,
Smallpore.
and Catholic Central.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just a tremendous guy, and I don't know why, but when I say Glencairn, it makes me think of Glen Neese. Is that strange?
I don't know why. For some reason, it makes me think of the car, the McLaren.
There you go. Oh, so yeah, Jacob has been so kind to pull up some really cool different displays that Blanton has.
And you guys should look these up. The Blanton, like the plank right there. That's the one that I think they do for you.
It's a barrel stave, right?
Yeah,
stave.
so they call them a stave. Yep. And what's really neat is what you see there on the one on the right with the staves is so they char the insides of those barrels. And so they have different levels of char, and it just depends on how much time they allow the fire to hit the oak barrel.
Yeah.
So if they char it to the extent they can, which I believe a 4 or 5 is the highest level, then it makes a completely different tasting bourbon, say, than a 1 or a 2. So basically, the higher the char, for the most part, the better the bourbon.
Okay.
And part of that has to do with the flavors that the charring brings out of the bourbon.
Yeah. Well, that
Or
makes
out
sense.
of the barrel,
Right.
I should say.
Right.
And
Out of the wood.
out of the wood.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, those are definitely charred. But there's a lot of cool different displays that the people do with it. They have ones that he had up there that they have the bottle, a spot for the bottle and a spot for a glass, and then all the horses around them. It's a really cool novelty thing. It really is.
Yes, it is.
I mean, this does smell good. I'll tell you what, I'm decently buzzed up. More buzzed up than I expected. Glad I'm not driving.
We're sleeping over.
You know, Blanton's is one that I start to like better every time.
Yeah. And I mean, you have almost got me sold on the fact that it's not really better than E.H. Taylor. It's different,
It's definitely different.
but E.H. Taylor, I think, does stand up against it pretty good.
I really do think it stands up against it pretty good. I really do. Right now, in the middle of this tasting that I'm having, oh look, it says Glencairn on the bottom of yours. Sorry. Through this tasting right now, maybe it's just because of the array of bourbons we've had, but right now I am actually enjoying the Blantons a little bit more than the E.H. Taylor.
E.H. Taylor.
Yeah, but I agree with you. They're very different.
Yep.
And it does stand on its own. I think it is right up there with Blanton's regardless. Man,
It's
that
just
is good.
something about it, and it's so unique to a bourbon, I think. Actually, like, you would never think this would be the case, but it actually kind of has a somewhat of like almost like a thicker feel to it.
Like a mouthfeel.
Mouthfeel,
Yeah.
and it's almost like it's a little creamier, if you will.
It might have to do with the caramel being so big on the tasting chart.
Yep.
Yeah, because it really does. It has like a thicker, smoother mouthfeel.
Yeah.
It does. It's really excellent.
It really is.
God, I'm fuckered up.
Well, when you're trying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bourbons, and technically 7 because we had one pre-air.
Well, I think even though we tasted Buffalo Trace twice, we had about two or three on the rocks beforehand.
We got Monsignor Orsini, who, by the way, took a shit in the studio.
Yeah.
Take 'em outside,
He's a little.
takes a
He is a beautiful little English bulldog pup, which I've always wanted an English bulldog. I've wanted one named Phil.
Oh,
And
that's a good name.
I've wanted him to wear a top hat and have a fake cigar in his mouth, and it almost looked like you were about to stick that cigarette in his mouth.
So, wow, didn't expect the bourbon tasting in the movies alone to go
right. So I think we're gonna probably pass over on some of the stuff we were going to talk about, and we'll definitely do another podcast because this was fun.
Yeah.
But what I do want to close with is, because obviously a lot of people are about to be in quarantine,
right.
so maybe some things that you're currently watching.
Yep.
That you think would be good for people to watch during this time, like
Sure.
stuff that they can binge or just a movie.
I mean, there's a couple really, I think, great series that I've started watching that I think would definitely.
Oh, actually, real quick, you know what we should do? What our favorite from the tasting was, each of us.
Okay.
I'll let you go first.
All right. So it's hard for me not to pick Blanton's because I have a love of Blanton's like no other. But I would say I'm going to just pull Blanton's aside and pick from the others.
Okay.
For me, it was Jefferson's Groth Reserve.
For me, it was Jefferson's Groth Reserve. Yeah, without a doubt. I was excited to say it.
Yeah. And I got to say, it surprised me tonight because I haven't had it in a while. And I know the bottle looks different, like, oh, you've been drinking it a lot. But I've had that bottle since November.
Oh, okay.
And we've, nipped it here and there.
Yeah.
I don't even like the fact that I just used the word nipped. I feel like that puts me in an age range of like, oh my God, what is he in? Is he in his 70s? He's using the word nipped.
See, for some reason, I was excited that you said nipped.
It would be okay if I was talking about nipples instead of nipping a drink.
Instead of nipping a drink. But no, it was by far my favorite. Honestly, there's just a lot to it.
Yeah.
Compared to the other bourbons, and granted, it's probably because it has been in two different barrels or aged in two different barrels. But there's a lot to it. It's, to me, for lack of a better term, complex.
Right.
And it is fucking delicious.
Yeah, it really is. And everything we had tonight is really good. But hopefully some people that listen to this are going to hear about a bourbon. They're like, oh, yeah, I never thought of, or I never heard of that. And I would like to try it. And these are accessible. Boone County, you can get it. You just got to get it online, and you've got to call actually Kentucky and just find some place down there that has it. They'll ship it to you.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to get.
And the most expensive one in here, I do believe, is the Jefferson's at an 89 MSRP. Other than that, I don't think anything is above 60.
Mm-mm.
And
Nope.
And we have a 24, 25, a 30, a 40.
45.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say about drinking bourbon, especially drinking it straight, is there's like no hangover.
All right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll drink bourbon all night and be like, I'm going to be so hungover in the morning. I wake up, I'm like, I feel great.
And I feel like you're going to put that to the test again tonight.
Yeah, especially, and I got my first day actual work day at Kroger's tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
At 10:30.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see how it plays out.
But that's good stuff.
But I'm fairly confident.
Yep.
All right, but let's get back into
all right,
things for quarantine to entertain yourself.
So I'm going to give you one that I think is a absolute no-brainer. And here's the great thing about it. So it's March 23rd. On March 27th, the third season of Ozark comes out.
No brainer.
No brainer.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 days if you've never watched Ozark. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe have never even heard of it. And I believe it is that Netflix? I can't remember.
Netflix.
It's Netflix.
It's Netflix. It's Jason Bateman acting and directing. I think directing. But
Yeah. Well,
and-
some of the episodes.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Right. And I think
Laura Linney.
yeah.
She's the female.
And I think 10 episodes per season.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's feasible to watch them before they come out, before the new ones come out.
For sure. And
Especially under quarantine.
Yes. And I think you're going to find like what we did, and we weren't even under quarantine at the time. I mean, we were.
It's hard to stop.
We were buzzing through a season like in 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah.
Watched 2 or 3 episodes a night. It's that good. It really is that good. The acting's that good. Jason Bateman's fantastic. The story's really unique. It actually reminds me of the next one I was going to mention, and of course, it's nothing that no one's ever not heard of, is Breaking Bad. But it's that binge worthy. It's that binge worthy. Like Breaking Bad, to me, you could watch several seasons in one night.
Right. But the difference between it and Breaking Bad to me is Breaking Bad I had to take breaks of from time to time because Breaking Bad, there's so many shitty people in it.
Yeah.
But in Ozarks, even though they might be doing some shitty things, they might be in some shitty situations, they're not really shitty people.
No.
You know, so I don't have a problem just blowing right through. And for those that don't know, we talked about it a little bit in the last episode that just aired, but it is about a guy who worked in finance, for lack of a better term,
right?
Like investments.
Yes, he was I believe he was an investment broker.
Yeah, an investment broker, and him and his brokerage company were laundering money for the cartel, and some of the people that he worked with were skimming, but he was not.
Right.
But they came in and they killed the other guys, and he convinced them to keep him alive because he could move to the Ozarks of all places and launder more money than they were laundering before.
Right.
Which seems crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's the Ozarks.
And the only reason he came up with the Ozarks is because there was some pamphlet that somebody had, a brochure.
Yeah.
And it had the Ozarks. I think him and his partner were talking about going there on a vacation.
Right. Something goofy.
Yeah.
Like no reason for him to ever say the Ozarks, but it was in his head. So
Right.
he threw it out there.
Right.
But excellent. Perfect timing too. It is about to just come out.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And
So it's like as soon as you get, kind of jonesing on the fact that, oh my God, it's over and I want to see another season, you got another season there. Another one that I really, really like, I'm not through all 3 seasons. There's 3 seasons out. We're almost to the end of the second season, and this is on Amazon Prime, is called Sneaky Pete.
That's with what's his name, Giovanni Risby,
Yes.
Risby,
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Really, really good, really smart, very unique story. It's just, Sneaky Pete. His name's not Pete. I can't remember what his name is in the show, but he takes on this other guy's persona. In fact, I think we found out about this from your dad, Jacob. It was the one who told us about this show, or Mary. And he's in prison. The guy he's actually in the cell with, his name is Pete. And he gets out. Not Pete, but Pete's staying in. And he finds all these things out about his family and decides to go visit him and takes on Pete's identity. And then within a very short period of time realizes that he actually is starting to really love this family. And this family's totally fucked up because they're all bounty hunters.
Okay. Well, it actually is. What's crazy too is it says he's a conman on the run from a vicious gangster.
Yes.
So, and that's why he takes on this identity. Okay.
And here's what's really cool, and why I probably like this more than what most do because of being such a Breaking Bad fan. Mm-hmm. Bryan Cranston plays.
Oh, he's in it.
He plays the gangster, and he also is one of the creators of this series.
And he's an amazing actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it makes you really just fall in love with the whole idea of it because Cranston is in the whole first season.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but when Breaking Bad ended, I was like, I need some more Walter White in my life. It's like when Will Ferrell did the cowbell. I need more cowbell.
I need more cowbell. Yep.
I need more Walter White.
Yeah. I can't say that because that is definitely Breaking Bad. Actually, we'll throw that in there for what if you've never watched Breaking Bad, this is a perfect time to get into it because it is amazing.
Yeah,
one of the best shows ever made. Period. Yeah. We do seem to have an affinity for gangster shows.
Yes,
and movies.
Yeah,
I do want to throw a movie in there or a show in there that isn't gangster in any way, but also on Amazon is what made me think of it. And I don't know if you've seen it, The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I've not.
So it is actually, you like stand-up comedy?
Yes.
So it's actually about a woman during the times of Lenny Bruce, where people were getting arrested for being too vulgar, even doing their stand-up.
Cursing. And
yeah. So, The Marvelous Miss Maisel is a show about a lady who is, what is it, 1960s. So also when a wife was supposed to be a wife, for lack of a better term. You're supposed to be home, doing the laundry, taking care of the kids. So she goes with her husband to do his stand-up comedy stuff, and then ends up he is cheating on her and all these other things. So they go through the split, and she goes down to where she always went with him to do his comedy, and just starts talking and ends up being a great stand-up comic.
Wow.
And it just goes through her becoming a stand-up comedian in a time where, one, women weren't really supposed to be doing it, and two, women weren't supposed to be getting divorces or any of that. And it's really hilarious, well-written, all of that.
Nice.
So you should also check it out.
I will.
Yeah.
And it would be something that I might normally just kind of gloss right over.
That's what I did forever. See, because you see the case. Like, why would I watch that? It's just some lady in old style clothing. Like, why would I watch it?
Right.
The only reason I ended up watching it is because on the Joe Rogan podcast, he talked about it all the time.
Cool.
And it still took me forever to even still watch it. And then I finally did, and it is awesome. It's hilarious. It's great.
Nice. So we started a new series just the other night, and it's fairly new. And it is, I believe, Amazon also, although I'm not sure. It's called Hunters.
So good.
Yeah.
I've already dealt with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're almost, I don't know, 5 episodes into the first. So there's only, I mean, it just came out, so there's only one season, 10 episodes.
Just wait.
And what I love about it is, so Al Pacino has never done TV series, nothing.
No, he's done on HBO, not series, but like mini movies, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I right away I was thinking, when I started first seeing the ads for it, I was like, I don't know. I mean, come on, there's like a lot of this stuff has been out recently.
Yeah.
But boy, is it really good.
It's really good. Excellent. It's about a group of Jewish people that go around. The Nazis in this show have infiltrated all levels of the United States, and it's them going through finding the worst Nazis and eliminating them.
Right.
And they do kind of put them on some sort of trial.
Yeah, it's not just, okay, we're killing you.
Yeah. It's excellent. It's really good. I can't wait for you to get more into it because, man, there are some twists.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I know that. So I sucked Jake into it the other night, and he was like, "Wow, this is pretty good." And I fell asleep on the couch to like episode 4 or 5, and the next morning he was like, "Oh yeah, I watched 2 more episodes." I'm like, "Well, you could. I don't want to know anything about it. Don't tell me.
Don't say shit."
But he's like, "Yeah, I got completely sucked in."
Nymeria is now climbing in Steve's lap. Nymeria, get down. Get down. Nymeria, get out. You're fine. So I'm going to bring up another one. This is going back to Netflix. I actually just finished it, just got into it. It is The Stranger. Have you heard about this yet?
Who's in that?
It's a British show, and so there's not a lot of people you know. You watch The Hobbits?
Yes. I have, yes.
So you know the Hobbit with the long hair, goatee, kind of a pointy nose that was like the badass Hobbit?
Yes.
He
stars in that?
He's the star, but he's not a Hobbit.
It sounds very familiar.
So in this show, this girl, you see the girl in the main picture for it?
I do.
She somehow gets information on all these different people, and she goes and tells secrets to their close ones that they're keeping.
Okay.
And so the secrets are like groundbreaking, like changes their dynamic and whatever their relationship is. And they all end up intertwining and coming together in one thing. My buddy Justin Blanton, he just told me about it on the podcast we recorded on Saturday. and I've already finished it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
10 episodes.
Beautiful.
It grabs you immediately. First episode.
What streaming service?
That's
is
on
that?
Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Excellent one. Excellent. I highly recommend it. Grabs you right away. It's nonstop. I'd say on the like thriller line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one that sounds like it would be similar to that, and it's all about serial killers, mine hunters.
See, I started to watch the first season of that. I didn't get into it that much, but everybody keeps telling me about it. I feel like I gotta like maybe just sit through a couple and then I'll get into it.
I think so. I mean, to me, it probably didn't suck me in until maybe the third or fourth episode of the first season. But once it really got going, and it's all about real like serial killers during our lifetime, and they're interviewing these people, and I think it's pretty darn cool. And it's amazing how they find these actors to look exactly like the people that were actually the serial killers. Like
that's what I did a little research, and that's one thing I did notice is they got them to really match up.
Yes, Ed Kemper, the Charles Manson guy. It was unbelievable how much he looked like Charles Manson. I can't remember some of the other people that they interviewed, but I know. Well, actually, no. The Son of Sam guy looked just like David Berkowitz.
Really?
I mean, it was crazy.
Just identical.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. The going to a movie, you brought up Manson. If you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Love it.
To me, that is the best movie that
Last year.
And it's the best movie I think that Quentin Tarantino ever did. And he's got a lot of good movies, so don't get me wrong. I'm not. So that's maybe tough for me to say. But I really loved it. I loved how it ended, and it took it different from the actual storyline.
Yep.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's character in there is maybe my favorite character in any film ever.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's a man's man. He's a nice guy that is just a badass.
Right. Right. And one of the parts that I love about that movie that quantifies everything you just said about him is he has this scene where Bruce Lee is doing like a warm up before he's going to get out there and do a scene.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt's just fucking around with him and like, oh, let me see what you can do. And the next thing you know, Brad Pitt's kicking the shit out of Bruce Lee because he knows better moves than Bruce Lee does. And it wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't that far from the truth. There was a lot of that movie that was very true, based on true events. Then there was obviously parts of it that weren't. I would definitely put that for me, I'd put it at number 2 for Quentin Tarantino. I'd put Pulp Fiction 1. I just love that movie.
It is really good. That's why I said it was hard. It was mainly Pulp Fiction.
But we both absolutely loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and had no idea. Like, I just always thought it was about the murders.
Yeah.
Charles Manson murders of Sharon Tate and the other people that were there. And what was so cool about it is once I realized it was like, oh, okay, well, this would have been what would have happened if they went to the wrong house, which is what they did. I mean,
they would have got fucked up.
Yeah. And even Leonardo DiCaprio, which I didn't like him much through the movie, because he's whiny and needy and all this stuff.
And
but,
no matter what, I just think Brad Pitt shined so much in that movie.
100%. But still, it was really cool at the end when he comes out. He's talking earlier in the movie about how he has a flamethrower, and he comes out and fries that girl in the pool.
It's like so outlandish, but so incredibly great.
Yeah.
And I love the line when he's doing with Bruce Lee. I forget exactly how it goes, but it's essentially Bruce Lee is saying like, if I punch you, I go to jail because my hands are registered weapons. And Brad Pitt's like, if anybody punches anybody, they go to jail. It's assault. Oh, man. I love that movie.
Yeah. It makes me want to watch it again. I've only seen it once, but I know after we saw it, we all loved it. And we're like, oh, yeah, we got to watch this again.
Yeah. I got to ask, are you a Star Wars fan?
I am.
Did you watch the most recent one?
No.
I wanted to not listen to people. Now, don't get me wrong. I still loved it because I'm a Star Wars fan. I did. And I love the message they put through. I love some aspects of the movie. It's a real piece of shit.
That's a shame. And that's how they're going to end the whole series?
just that saga. Just the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
Now, the female character may go on because in the books and other things, she does have more storyline. But God, it's a bad movie. But as a Star Wars fan, you're still going to enjoy it.
Sure.
And I don't think you should let it deter you. I think for real movie fans is what it is, because it's just kind of poorly put together. But it is still entertaining, still good. I still recommend watching it. Obviously, you got to close out the series, but do temper your expectations.
Okay, will do. Good to know. And I mean, to this point, I kind of have. I mean, since obviously growing up at the time that I did, I mean, Star Wars, what would be considered now 4, 5, and 6.
Right, but I love all of those.
So good.
Yeah.
And then 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, they were really they were tough to choke down.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't mind Hayden Christensen as an actor, but man, was he awful in those.
Yeah.
What, the guy who played Darth Vader?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess his best one was the last of those, the third. He did okay in that. That was fairly solid, but those first 2 were just
God, so bad.
Yeah.
When they killed off Qui-Gon Jinn immediately, who was like the best thing they had in that fucking in that series. So at that point,
and then you had the guy from Taken. Why can I not think of his
That's
name?
what I'm talking about, Qui-Gon Jinn.
Okay,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They killed him off in the first one.
Was that the first one?
Yeah,
okay.
First one. Darth Maul gets him.
And so was he the one that was the teacher of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yep.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
what the heck is his name in real life?
Is it Liam Neeson?
Liam
Yes,
Neeson.
thank you.
Liam Neeson, yeah. It's so crazy how he went from like this normal actor to this badass. I think it probably stemmed from Star Wars, but then Taken, it was like, dude, you're a full-blown action star. How have you not been doing action movies your whole goddamn life?
Yeah. And he's really good at it, too.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, you got anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, I do, but we'll leave it here. I mean, we've been going at it for quite a while.
Yeah, what are we at, Jacob?
248.
248, almost 3 hours. Flew by too. Felt like tops an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you bringing some of these rare bourbons. I really appreciate you leaving this sucker with me, this Jefferson's.
Yep, my pleasure.
That's incredible. But I really appreciate you coming on. This went better than I even expected, and I expected it to be great. So,
well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Jacob. Thanks for what you did. You were right on it. And thanks, Father Monsignor Orsini, for taking a shit in the studio.
Yeah, that was a big plus.
Yeah.
That was a highlight.
It's always nice. And thank you to my lovely wife for being here to support me.
Yeah, and for making sure he gets home safe, because we definitely we had quite a bit of bourbon.
Last but not least, thank you, David, for sharing your fantastic bourbons. This is awesome setup. It's really good. Strongly encourage anybody to come in and partake if they are so inclined and also so fortunate to be asked.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Sure.
I feel like we tried to have fun in here, and I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, no doubt. I did.
All right. Well, this is the Gathering of Fools. We're out.
Out.